Let's have the invocation by Vice Mayor Robinson.
I'll have a moment of silence, remembering all the people that have lost their lives to preventable diseases, all the soldiers and service people that have served and given the ultimate sacrifice, and look forward to a new Jewish year of prosperity and health and goodwill.
Lashana Tova.
Amen.
Amen. Now it says that we're going to have the pledge by Commissioner McBoy, but that's silly because he's not here. So I'm going to ask Commissioner Stokes to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Thank you.
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Additions, deletions, and reordering. And Madam Clerk, I think you have some to announce. I have a couple to announce.
I do. So new business F, ordinance number 2021-12, providing the authority for the issuance of taxable pension obligation bonds, was deleted from tonight's agenda and will be heard at the September 21st regular meeting.
Okay.
Presentation C regarding a challenge to section 1 of HB 1, and presentation D regarding low interest home improvement loans for energy conservation were added to the agenda, as well as new business G, a discussion of possible solar energy loan programs.
Okay, well, I have something to add with additions and deletions as well.
And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I am deleting presentation D, and I'm pulling new business G. And I'll explain the reason for that. And I'll go into that. I think I'll just go into that now while I'm doing that. Number one, a couple of months ago, we were very clear to the commission, to the staff and to the clerk that we want our agendas 2 weeks in advance. It was a very clear direction. These are additions. These are not emergencies. I think it was Commissioner McBoy that asked for them, but these are not emergencies. They are interesting, and they are also electric issues. And I don't know why we, at the last minute, would put something on the agenda which is not an emergency and which I believe more clearly and more appropriately would be on the electric utility agenda. So I am pulling those, both of the presentation, which is the presentation D of presentation by the nonprofit Solar Energy Loan Fund regarding low interest home improvement loans. And I am pulling the new business G, which is the Lake Worth Solar Energy Loan Fund and an associated potential Lake Worth Energy Conservation Fund. Those are electric issues and they're not emergencies. So I don't think that it is fair to the staff or to the commission to have last minute things put on and something which is not appropriate, because we do actually have, that's why we have an electric utility meeting. So that's my feeling about that.
Madam Mayor, are you
Yes.
entertaining any comment on that?
No,
What's that?
no, I'm pulling it.
I believe our procedure on adding or deleting is that we propose it and then it be voted on by the commission. That's understanding of the procedure.
I really, Commissioner McBoy, was when I heard about this, and I've been in the hospital for a few days, when I found out that I could not understand why, and number one, an electric issue was brought up, and number two, it was brought up at the last minute. What's the emergency?
I'm not asserting an emergency. The reason that of the timing was that we were brought up without any warning that there was a proposal to raise electric rates for all our residents. And a number of us clearly indicated that if we were going to raise rates, which is a highly unpopular thing to do, we should make very sure that we are offering something at the same time. And it will take a little while to put together that. the reason that I put these items on, proposed them for the regular commission meeting rather than for the electric meeting, partly was the timing, that to give us a bit more time to give some direction to the EUAB, the Electric Utility Advisory Board, if we'd like them to help guide us on doing something or do the research, to give them some time. And the other was that although the name is Solar Energy Loan Fund, it is a nonprofit bank that is very much oriented toward low and middle income households and has worked in a number of communities. And we have expressed repeatedly, both this commission and the previous one, an interest in increasing home ownership and decreasing renters, and anything that we can do to help both energy conservation and improving the value of people's houses, building intergenerational wealth, seems to me the sooner we get on it, the better. And it's of general interest rather than specific to the electric fund. That was my thinking. Now, maybe my thinking's not correct. It was not last minute, but I didn't have all of the stuff ready at the full 2 weeks, but it was ready last week.
Okay, I'm going to ask the clerk and our attorney about the procedure about this. I mean, can I pull it, or do we have to have a discussion and a vote?
We always have a vote on setting the final agenda.
Okay,
The rules of procedure on additions are that they are supposed to be for a true emergency. And that's set forth in your current rules of procedure.
mhm.
So it would be up to this body to
Okay,
determine
I
whether.
mean, that's fine. I think it's unfair to everyone. You can spin the thing about it. We want to help home ownership, and we obviously do, but it is solar electric fund. So I am going to ask the commission to support me. We can have it at the next electric utility meeting. But I'm going to ask the commission to support me in pulling these two agenda items. I would like a motion. Oh, you have a light on.
Yes, ma'am.
I have to get used to this again.
Well, I want to say thank you for pulling it because I was out of town last week and I went through my budget, my agenda prior to leaving town.
Mhm.
And because I get a hard copy, this wasn't made aware to me till today.
Right.
So I thank you for pulling it because I literally went through all my stuff before I left town.
Mhm.
And being that I don't get an electronic file, I
Right.
didn't know that these were happening. So I support that move.
And do you
Especially-
support it going on the electric?
Yes, absolutely. Moving it to electric utility. Thank you.
Herman? Ms. Robinson?
The agenda, Christie, I've been given advice that we can vote on anything that really never is on the agenda. Just as a side, I forget what the issue was, but I just wanted to say that, and this is a presentation that we're pulling, right?
Yes.
There's going to be no vote on that.
Correct.
So for 10 minutes, I don't mind hearing it twice.
And I don't know why we're at, you have to understand, I'm a little cranky because I'm a little. We were very clear to our staff, and we, the commission, all of us were very clear to staff that we have 2 weeks. It is not fair to them. I don't know why this was, and in knowledge of that, Commissioner, before you still, even though we were very clear about that, you brought something up, which is number one, electric, and number two, non-emergency. So I am going to ask for, if Commissioner Malega has made a motion, I'm going to ask for a motion. We're not saying we're not going to hear them. I just think if we're going to make a rule about things like this, we need to stick to the rule. And I'm going to ask for support, and, we can have it at the agenda of, I'm not saying we're not going to hear it, but this is, my feeling is it's not the time, and I would like to put it on the electric utility agenda for the end, if that agenda is not full, to have it on the electric agenda at the end of the month, and I would ask for a vote.
I would like to say that I think we all want to support you in your efforts to move us along, but I don't see that this is really did it create any extra work for staff?
It created extra work for people, but yes, let me ask.
The presentation.
Let me ask one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Without focusing just on this specific item, I think the crux of it is protecting the integrity of the agenda process, and we worked hard to change to allow lots of time to prepare, to issue the packet, so everyone has time to review it, the public has time to review it. And lately, we've been kind of getting away from that, not sticking to the process we agreed to by having everything in by a dead set time, unless it's a true emergency. We also created the electric utility board meeting once a month to tackle and to provide a platform so things can be discussed appropriately and in depth. In this case, this particular item is not only a presentation, but also added another item to new business that's kind of an accompanying item. When it comes to staff, anytime there's a presentation that has the potential to become a policy issue, it would be helpful if staff has time to know what's coming so that we can prepare, we can research and understand who's coming to speak. So at least, because all the questions are going to be referred back to staff.
Right.
Depending on, what the subject matter is going to be. So for the sake of efficiency and being effective and not wasting people's time, I think to the mayor's point is we need to continue to protect the integrity of the agenda process and just follow the rules. And again, there's exceptions along the way. And I'll continue to try to be as accommodating as we can. But remember, we're trying to stick to deadlines, and which before you were elected, the most of you, Commissioner, you've been here the longest. Remember, it was always the issue with the public was, why are things being added on late? Why is everything always late? Why aren't we talking about things? We're not being transparent. So again, let's not lose focus of the bigger picture, which is protecting the very essence of that. And that's having information out in a timely fashion. The backup is appropriate, it's there. Staff can read it, and then you guys have time to ask questions of staff as well.
And this does also have a new business discussion of it's not just a presentation, there's action, the new business G, which I'm pulling as well,
Well, that's,
asking to pull as well.
and
So I think if we just keep our eyes and focus on the big picture, and it's really about the process, and not so much the specific item tonight, I think the conversation really is just in general. Because there has been situations lately where we've kind of not stuck to the process.
So it's asking for discussion. It's not just a presentation.
well, I'm okay with just a present. Again, we're going to spend more than 10 minutes talking about.
So let's just not make any rules then. And I don't mean to be argumentative, but we were clear that we weren't going to do this.
And it's also not fair to the public who didn't see that this was on
Right.
tonight, and who the people, if we're trying to be informative,
For people to
being
help
informative
them.
would be making sure that people knew this was going to happen. Now it's kind of like, okay, we're going to do what we're doing in the dark, literally.
Right. And it is to help. And no one has, everyone up in this commission wants to help people in our city to be more, to have a better quality of life.
But
Then I go ahead with the presentation and pull the discussion and move the discussion to the 28th.
Can you,
is that a fair compromise?
I guess
Should
it's
be
a fair
electric
compromise, but it should be on the
Madam
electric.
Mayor,
Yeah.
the presenter is like out and about, and he called me because he can't do the presentation. He needs me to actually go through all the slides and everything. So
But they're not
I
even
kind
here
of,
to do it.
Okay.
well, I
Madam
mean, I'd
Mayor,
have to share my screen, but
Yeah.
I kind of gave him a heads up that, it may happen in the future, so he may not be available.
If the presenter is not here to make the presentation, why are we even having this conversation?
Madam Mayor, if I may, sorry. Madam Clerk, thank you. I also wasn't aware that the presenter's not. We need to just go ahead. It's up to you, but I can't have our clerk running a presentation that's related to conservation. So at least maybe this.
Well, he wanted me to run the slides, but the
Yeah.
problem is I found out after 3:00 that the original presenter who's listed on the agenda or in the additions was swapped with a new presenter who then sent a new presentation.
Well, they're not ready.
Okay, well, I'm asking on staff's behalf, if we'll make it a priority to add to the 28th electric utility. I think it's the 28th, Madam Clerk.
Yes.
That's
And we'll add
correct.
it as a presentation to that night.
Okay.
That gives everyone an opportunity to prepare appropriately, and the presenters can prepare and then we can have, them driving their presentation.
So could you add to your motion?
Motion to set the agenda, removing new item D under presentations and new business G, and putting them on the electric utility meeting for the 20th of September.
And also I'm asking to DG, presentation D, presentation, a new business G. Presentation, I'm a little confused here.
Yeah, that's what you did.
Okay,
Yeah, those two.
so deleting new business F, correct? No, yes, oh, that's the other one.
Yes.
Right. So
Second,
do I have a motion? Do I have a second?
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nate,
Okay.
I would like to clarify that I already have another presentation lined up for the 28th. So I assume that this will in no way be a restriction on being able to do both then. On the 28th at
I
the
don't know
electric.
what the agenda looks like. I think, again, we need to, we have a very, very busy
yeah.
staff.
Madam Mayor, either we're committed to doing these things, and if you're saying you want it moved, I already had something else lined up for the 28th. So you need to agree that we will have both of them at that meeting. Because otherwise,
No objection to that happening. I don't know what is on the agenda. I mean, generally, electric agenda is not that filled. So I no objection to that happening.
okay, thank you. Just wanted to be clear and not get us in a box later.
Well, okay. So this division is yourself. Self is gone. Okay, so we have a 4-1 vote. Thank you very much. Let's keep moving.
Marching band.
I'm sorry? The marching band.
Marching band.
Now we get to the fun part.
Oh,
Dr. Cox, are you available? Where's Dr.
Dr.
Cox?
Cox is on.
There they are. Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. This is a presentation that I've asked for, and I know that we all support the band terrifically, and we have in Dr. Tiffany Cox, the most amazing band leader in Florida. Woo!
Is there any way to make her tile?
Yeah, we want to get her big.
tile?
Can we, whoever does this, can we get them on the big screen? A little history. I first met Dr. Cox a few years ago when there was a need for some support for their summer camp. And oh, thank you, Ben. For the first time, I guess it's now 2 years ago because of COVID last year, the Lake Worth High School Band, after many, many years, was invited to participate in the state championships up in Daytona. I went up and I was a band kid and I didn't play anything, but I learned how to march. I was a substitute marcher because my friends were all band geeks. There they are. Woo. So now she has, I believe, 85 members. Yep. And they're here to talk to us tonight for a minute. You got 10 minutes.
All right, that's way more than enough time. Thank you, everybody. We are so excited to be here. I have behind me our Lake Worth High School Trojan Sound Drumline. Wait, everybody. So our drumline is made up of students from 9th grade all the way to 12th grade, and most of them have never played an instrument before in their lives. They came in here to Lake Worth and they said, I want to do that. And so we give them a chance and we start totally from scratch. So I'm going to go ahead and let them kick it off with one of their cadences. So go ahead and pick them up. While they're getting ready, our drumline that you have behind me is brand new this year that we got through a grant through Palm Beach County. The school district gave each middle school and high school $20,000 to spend. So we upgraded our drumline. They look super nice and we're protecting them with nice new cases and everything, keeping them nice and fresh and new for you guys. So the first cadence that they're going to play, I believe, is called Fanta.
All right, thank you.
All right, so that's a brand new one that they taught themselves this year. They're super self-driven kind of group. They're really independent. They love to teach each other. Right behind me, I have our percussion captain, Elle. So Elle is a senior this year and super excited to get started on college applications and scholarships and things like that. We do have one other senior in the group, and the rest of these guys will have for a couple of years left to go. Oh no, this is back. Oh my gosh! Sorry, there's four seniors. They're all over the place today. But what we're really excited about a couple of new fundraising initiatives that we're doing. On Sunday, some of our percussion teachers are actually playing in a cover band at Bryant Park. With the Bryant Park.
Yeah, they're doing that. I shared that on Facebook.
It's super exciting. So they're working with our kids, volunteering their time to come in and work with our drumline. But they're doing any donations that are donated to their band, they're going to match and donate right back to us. So we're super excited about that. And then we're also really excited to announce that we have a match offer coming up with our donors who are alumni, Dr. and Mrs. Chris Peterson. They live in Jupiter right now, but are Lake Worth High School alumni. And they're giving us $5,000 as a match initiative. So we're going to start fundraising and hopefully get these guys to the state marching band competition again this year.
And how are those pop-up tents working?
Oh, they're amazing.
Why don't you talk about that for a second? Oh,
It looks like she's muted.
she's very low. Yeah.
There, okay.
Well, I was in the Peckway Valley marching band drum section, and we were a special team versus the trombone section.
So let's,
The bus.
Dr. Cox, why don't you, I don't know that people know, I would like the public to know about how supportive the city is and how we helped you.
Absolutely. So the city has always been one of our biggest supporters. We do a whole lot of events. We're working with special events and Lauren and Emmerich over there all the time to do parades and concerts at Bryant Park and things like that. But more importantly, we have the most incredible mayor, Ms. Betty Resch. We're very grateful for her independent support, but also for all of you. Commissioner Robinson has also helped independently to support our band program in the past. We're super grateful for that. But as a city, the shade tents that we were provided with were super, I literally can't tell you what we do without them. So at Lake Worth High School, we're forced to practice in the front parking lot of the school because we don't have enough rehearsal space. So there's no field space for us to have while the football team is practicing, soccer teams are practicing. So we moved to the front parking lot. And as you all know, in the middle of the day, we practice from 3 to 7. It is ungodly hot out there. So these shade tents have been super helpful with the kids.
And I'm going to tell you that our acting city manager, Juan, was instantly, and he's in his Lake Worth High School guy, was instantly supportive of that. And I'm very grateful that he was so generous with you guys.
Go Trojans.
Go Trojans.
When's homecoming? I'm ready for homecoming now after hearing all that. When is homecoming?
I can get you the dates on the homecoming game. I don't know it off the top of my head. I do know that our next football game is September 17th. And that if anybody wants to get tickets to the game, they do need to be purchased ahead of time. You go to the website gofan.co, just co, not com, and you search for Lake Worth High School. There's a Lake Worth High School in Texas, so make sure it's the Trojan. And you can get tickets to the game on there ahead of time, but they do have to be purchased ahead of time.
Okay, great. And so do you have another, we're probably running out of time, but do you have another little couple of minutes that you could play for us? We don't have any more time. Are we talking?
Yeah, Madam Mayor,
Are we up?
you guys are looking for $5,000 for the match that you said for the alumni?
Can you hear us?
So no, I mean, we would be super grateful to be supported in that way. That I feel like that's asking a lot. But with that money, we would be able to get these guys all the way to state marching band competition, cover the expenses for them so that the kids and their families feel a little bit less financial pressure and stress on that.
Okay, well, you can put Commissioner and Mrs. Maliga down for a $100 donation to the high school band.
I'm with you. And
I'll do 100.
All right.
There you go. You got $400 just like that.
Commissioner McVoy, you want to join in on this?
Woo, look at that, Mr.
And Juan's in.
Okay, great.
Oh, our city attorney.
Our city attorney's in, all right?
Christie's
Very
in.
good.
We're up to $600. There we go. That's how
Very
it
good.
starts.
Very good.
The clerk is in too.
Dr.
The clerk.
Cox, this is one, the interim city manager. When is the state trip?
It's November 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
And you've been invited back?
Yes.
I love it. I love it. Where is it this time? Is it Daytona?
It's actually going to be in Ocala. There's a new facility called the World Equestrian Center. And they modify it to hold an AstroTurf marching band field.
And what date is that?
20th,
November
21st.
20th to the 22nd.
October?
November.
November. Oh, perfect. Perfect.
The weekend right before Thanksgiving.
Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for what you do with these kids and kids. I have watched those kids practice out on that field and it is hotter than Hades out there. And they are playing their little hearts out. And we are so grateful to all the work that the staff, that the high school is doing. So why don't you leave? If we have, Madam Clerk, do we have a couple another minutes?
We actually have 4.5 minutes because
All
I
right.
didn't count the talking.
Okay, well, I think that's fair. So
Home field advantage.
home field advantage. So hit us up, Dr. Cox. Thank you so much.
All right, just one more thing before I let the kids take it over. We do practice in the front of the school, so if anybody's ever driving by and you see us out there, stop by and say hello. I'd love to put you on the microphone, say some words of inspiration to the kids because, we like to hear the hometown story and see all of you involved in the school as well.
And is
So,
that every day from 3 to 7 after school?
It's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 3 to 7.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right, so this cadence is called Jig 2, and it's going to feature our junior tenor player, Killian.
Great, thank you. And we're going to cut you off at 10 minutes.
That's totally fine, absolutely.
Mhm. Great. All right, thank you very much. Good work, everybody.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
All right, good night. Take care.
That's awesome.
It's so awesome.
It just transports me right back onto that field. I was wondering if you were feeling.
I
it
literally
too.
was, I was in the band and I
Stand
didn't,
up on my arm.
Yeah,
I had to learn all the marching things, because I was a substitute marcher and I carried a piccolo because it was like the easiest thing.
Nothing like Friday night football.
I know.
The light, the smell of fresh cut grass and the band playing.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
America. And I love it. These are, our Lake Worth High School kids are, we're not a rich school, and what she has done with these kids,
Yeah.
from like 15 to 85 kids in 5 years, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure the cheerleaders appreciate it because it's always nice to have a good beat.
And you were a cheerleader, so there you go. So I love it. Thank you very much. Our next presentation is a presentation regarding affordable housing programs by Frederick James, who is the head of United Hands for Global Impact. And I believe he's here. I don't know what the
Is
technology.
here,
Okay,
Mr. James.
Yes, I'm here. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me?
okay, you got 10 minutes.
Awesome. Thank you, Mayor, City Commission, for this amazing opportunity to come and speak about some great things we're doing, not only in Lake Worth Beach, throughout Palm Beach County as well. I prepared just a brief PowerPoint on our organization, United Hands for Global Impact, and the basic legal framework that structures these particular organizations. And we'll speak briefly on our approach and how it's different from the traditional model, but actually complements that particular model. And with
Okay.
that being said, I would like to get right into it. United Hands for Global Impact is a nonprofit development corporation that specializes in public-private partnerships. We act as a community development investment vehicle geared to finance infrastructure redevelopment for cities in need of funding and/or who are looking for innovative ways to finance projects without increasing the cost of living on taxpayers. UHGI forms a public-private partnership with the governing body in order to maximize the public benefit and minimize the public's cost in social infrastructure redevelopment projects. For example, city halls, libraries, water treatment facilities, stormwater and sewage, and residential and commercial development projects. Our mission is to give the residents in these developing cities the investor role in financing their community development needs. Simply put, we position partnering cities to benefit as equity partners and share the return on investment these projects yield. History of success. Nonprofit corporations have long been used as a vehicle to finance the construction of public buildings such as hospitals, courthouses, and schools. Historically, such projects have been accomplished through the use of nonprofit corporations in order to avoid statutory debt limitations and other restrictions. The benefits of this particular program are you can creating a governing structure from both public and private sectors, facilitating transfer to public to private sector while preserving the ability to finance through tax-exempt debt if necessary, incorporating public agency and private entity sponsors, providing the community with more direct control with key decisions, utilizing federal, state, and local government grants and loan proceeds, enabling participation from other nonprofit organizations, avoiding the need for special legislation to implement a project, and combining the relative strengths of the public sector and private sector to gain optimum value. Project financing. The use of nonprofit project sponsors could facilitate the qualification to receive public funds since the revenue would not inure to any private party. It may be possible for the nonprofit to issue public and privately placed debt in the nonprofit if the nonprofit can enter into a fixed long-term contract for the use of the facility. The nonprofit corporation is a private corporation and is qualified to issue tax-exempt debt if it satisfies certain IRS requirements, including those set forth in Revenue Ruling 6320 and Revenue Procurement 8226. The corporation
Mr. James, I'm sorry to interrupt. This is the city clerk. You sent a presentation. Would you like to share it so it'd be more easier for the commission to follow along with what you're saying?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that they did have a copy of the presentation.
Well, we keep it, but generally the presenter is the one that shares it.
Oh, okay.
Are you able to do that?
Yes.
Okay, I paused your time, just so you know.
Okay. Now, would I just send you can I just email you the presentation or?
No, I have the presentation. You can share your screen.
Oh, I don't, okay, no, I don't have it on my screen. I don't have it pulled up on my screen.
Let's see what Ben can do.
All right, do you,
The iDrive?
Yeah, I'll go in the iDrive and get it.
Give us a second, Madam Clerk, please.
okay. I mean, I have it. I could share my screen.
Oh,
Yes, please.
Whoever's got it first, put it up. You want to put it up, Madam Clerk?
Oh, I just closed it. All right. Now let me just share my screen. Okay, does everybody see it?
Yep.
Yep.
It's loading.
Okay,
Are we gonna get hard copy? Will hard copies of this be?
I
put up
can
on the web-
email you copies, certainly.
And we should probably have it up on the website so the public can read it as well. Not now, but afterwards.
I'm sorry, so Mr. James, what slide are you on?
Project financing, the third to last.
There you go.
All right. You can resume, you have six and a half minutes.
Awesome.
And this will be put up on the website as well, Mr. James, so people can look at it.
Okay, awesome. We're on letter A in project financing.
Okay, ready, let's go.
All right. The corporation must engage in activities which are essentially public in nature, must not be for-profit organization. Corporate income must not inure to any private person. State or political subdivision must have a beneficial interest in the corporation while the indebtedness remains outstanding. Corporations must be approved by the state or political subdivision that must also approve the specific obligations issued by the corporation. Unencumbered legal title and the finance facilities must vest in the governmental unit after the bonds are paid. If the agency wants the nonprofit corporation to perform as its true alter ego, it may want to take steps to ensure it has ability to exercise direct control. It could do this through reserving the right to appoint directors or requiring agency representation on the board. In addition, the agency may require the nonprofit corporation and contractors to meet various conditions prior to construction or acceptance of the facility upon completion. The agency will want detailed reporting during construction and operations to ensure the long-term success of nonprofit financing. The role of the nonprofit corporation must properly be understood by all parties, including the private project sponsors and the authorizing governmental agency. The fact that it's not formally under the control of either governmental unit or private party means that all parties need to adhere to their contractual rights. Since in a tax-exempt transaction, the private party has no long-term equity interest in the project to protect, it is important that the project contracts grants the public agency participant an appropriate measure of supervision and control throughout the life of the project. USGI proposes pooling public and private redevelopment projects and investing those projects through our nonprofit organization, giving the public partner representation as the investor in these projects. This means through our 501c3 organization, we position tax dollars for redevelopment as investments on behalf of the public agency. We offer funding in multiple ways. The traditional, which allows us to issue tax-exempt bonds, for example, 6320 and special purpose bonds, and we issue the debt on behalf of a municipality. Enter into a P3 partnership with the municipality, finance 100% of the loan, uses tax-exempt debt interest. Uses tax-exempt debt, which means interest is exempt for taxes, offers lower interest long-term loans, allows full control by city-appointed board. Our modern approach, which emphasizes an agreement, finance, design, build, manage, operate, receives charitable donations, investments are positioned and invested through our Opportunity Zone Fund for Opportunity Zone projects. We also use grants from the local, state, and federal government, as well as private entities such as capital gain investors and private property owners to fund these projects. The modern approach incorporates municipalities at the local, state, and federal level, as well as private sector sponsors. An assigned municipal boundary and or publicly owned property is donated and becomes a part of our member base of investors. All contributions are tax deductible, and in most cases offer tax credits for various projects. Using surplus capital or money assigned in the budget for redevelopment, USGI represents a municipality's contribution as investments, which is used to apply for matching grants and tax-deductible contributions to fund redevelopment projects. Our goals are to safeguard the public's interest in these projects, stop the cost of living increases on taxpayers, allow private property owners to receive resources to develop their properties without losing ownership, and use resources from within the community to support funding public development needs. At this time, that concludes our brief presentation on the legal framework of United Hands for Global Impact, and I would like to open this up for any questions, comments.
Okay, with the presentation, we don't really do that, but I'm going to make a suggestion. There's a lot of information that you just went through. I'm going to suggest that you email each of the commissioners that they can, have an opportunity to talk to you a little bit more about the project, show what you're doing and that sort of thing.
Okay.
So that's my comment. And thank you very much, Mr. James. And good luck to you. And I'm sure you'll be talking to all of us because it's pretty complicated and we need to learn more. Okay.
Yes, definitely. I jumped the gun. I didn't know that you all did not have it in front of you.
It's fine. And it's a very complicated. Tonight was just to give us an idea of what you're doing and start from there. Thank you so much.
Awesome. You're very welcome. Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you. Okay, now we are commission liaison reports and comments. And let's start with District 1.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor, we are at presentation C by Southern Poverty Law.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's one of the additions.
Okay, I apologize. Doing my best here. There you go. So this is a presentation by Paul Chavez, Esquire of Southern Poverty Law Center, on behalf of the SPLC Public Rights Project and the Community Justice Project to represent a coalition of cities to challenge Section 1 of HB 1 2021. And again, this is just a presentation with no discussion afterwards. Mr. Chavez.
Thank you so much, Mayor. I actually have my colleagues in the waiting room that are part of the presentation.
Okay.
3 of them. Could we let them?
Yeah, I'm sorry, I was not told that.
We'll
So what
get
are
them
their
in there.
names?
We have Marissa Roy, Bearbeth Fox,
Okay,
Got it.
Esther Davidson.
okay, they should all be there now.
Can you put them on the
All
big screen?
I see him so much. I appreciate that.
Can they all be on the screen at the same time? Or are they going to speak separately?
No, Mary, it'll come up.
Okay, thank you. Okay, there's somebody.
And go Trojans. It's gonna be pretty tough to try to follow a Drumline. They were awesome.
They're great. Thank you. Okay, so go 10 minutes.
So we're so very pleased to have this opportunity to share with you all our plans to challenge Section 1 of the recently passed Florida House Bill 1 and why we, a growing coalition of cities, find HB 1 to be so problematic. As was mentioned, my name is Paul Chavez. I'm a senior supervising attorney with the Southern Poverty Law Center based here in our Miami office. And I'm joined today with some of the members of our litigation team, a team that we've assembled to represent cities 100% pro bono, so at no cost to any of the cities that we'll represent. We'll be challenging HB 1 because it directly threatens the ability of local governments to structure budgets that best meet the needs, the values, and the priorities of their constituents. Here's what HB 1 does. HB 1 authorizes certain elected officials to file an appeal with the Florida Administration Commission if a municipality makes any reduction to the operating budget of its law enforcement agency. The Administration Commission, as you likely know, is the governor and his cabinet. And I understand that the governor is now working to expand the number of people who can appeal any budget reduction to include county sheriffs. 2, HB 1 empowers the Administration Commission to amend or modify line by line any item within the operating budget of the municipality's law enforcement agency. 3, HB 1 does not set forth any mechanism for judicial review of the Administration Commission's budget decisions. So once the Administration Commission amends a municipality's budget, that amendment is final. That's what the city is then stuck with. It is unconstitutional for the governor and his cabinet to insert themselves between local governments and their constituents. So over the past few weeks, we've been in touch with several elected officials from cities across the state. And those conversations have revealed to me that not only is HB1 an assault on the ability of local governments to respond to their constituents, HB1 carries many unintended consequences. One example that I like to flag for this body is the transfer of law enforcement funds. Even if a city maintains programming at similar levels, but moves programs from a law enforcement agency to another agency, or say, for example, from the sheriff's budget to a different public safety agency, this could then trigger HB1. So where are we? The cities of Gainesville and Miramar have already passed resolutions authorizing this litigation. And based on our ongoing conversations with local officials across the state, we're confident that we're going to be able to build a united coalition of cities to successfully challenge HB1. And it's my hope we can add Lake Worth Beach to that list. And with that, I'll turn it over to my co-counsel, Beth.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Beth Foster, and I'm a senior staff attorney with the Community Justice Project. I will be telling you a little bit about the legal team that we've built to bring this challenge against HB1. The team consists of the Public Rights Project, Community Justice Project, the Southern Poverty Law Center, Pro Bono Council of Jenner and Block, and also a panel of local government law professors. This coalition of more than 20 attorneys has over 150 years of experience in affirmative litigation. The Public Rights Project partners with 70 local governments in representing municipal agencies from the state court level all the way up to the US Supreme Court. Community Justice Project also has extensive experience in bringing impact litigation cases throughout the state of Florida, and we're based here in Miami. Of course, we all know that the Southern Poverty Law Center is a venerable civil rights organization that has been a catalyst for racial justice for over 50 years. And most recently, the Community Justice Project and the Southern Poverty Law Center represented the city of South Miami in its challenge against SB 168, which required local governments to expend maximum local resources to enforce federal immigration law. We also have on our team the national firm of Jenner and Block. They are known for their significant commitment to pro bono work, and they've actually been ranked #1 for their pro bono commitment by American Lawyer 11 times. We have also partnered with the Local Solution Support Center, which consists of a panel of local government professors. They are led by the charge of combating the abuses of state preemption through national amicus efforts, including supporting Atlanta and Austin in their successful challenges against the orders of governors over masking. These professors at their core work in defending local democracy, and they are experts in home rule and state constitutional protections. We have built a strong team that is prepared to bring this case, litigate this case, and win this case. So at this time, I would like to pass it to one of those professors from the Local Solution Support Center, Professor Davidson, to talk a little bit more substantively about our case.
Thank you so much, Beth, and thank you all, commissioners, for hearing us out this evening. I am a professor at Fordham Law School, where I teach local government law, and I work closely, as Beth and Paul mentioned, with the Local Solutions Support Center, an entity that combats the abuse of state preemption. I've reviewed the claims in this complaint and strongly believe it's important to use all available tools to combat the troubling trend of state infringement on home rule. And I can say from a national perspective, as I study these issues, that Florida, unfortunately, is ground zero on this fight. From the very first words of the Florida Constitution, we the people, Florida's strong tradition of self-government includes home rule as an essential principle because local governments recognized in the Florida Constitution are closest to the governed. The Constitution's home rule provision states that, except as otherwise provided by law, and that means by valid law, and that's what this lawsuit is about, municipalities shall have governmental powers to enable them to conduct municipal government, perform municipal functions, and render municipal services. Budgeting, as you know, is at the heart of this authority. It's one of the most important governmental functions and critical to facilitating municipal services. I don't need to remind you that local governments have limited resources to cover a variety of programs and have to make hard choices to allocate those resources to meet the needs of their community. The Florida Constitution protects local budgeting authority through not only the provision of home rule, but through separation of powers doctrines and prohibition against unfunded mandates. HB1 usurps this local budgeting process and allows the governor and his cabinet to dictate purely local decisions. The state executive branch has no place making budget decisions for localities. Localities know their own resources, know the community's desires, and know the tough trade-offs that have to be made. Under HB1, there is no limit on the types of reductions the governor and his cabinet can review, whether they're targeted reallocation of resources for specific policy choices or across the board budget cuts. It can amend or reject any line item of the police budget without any regard to the effects on other parts of the municipal budget. And at the heart, that's what this litigation is about. Let me hand you off to my colleague, Marissa Roy.
Thank you.
Good evening, Commission, and thank you so much for allowing us to speak. I'm Marissa Roy, a staff attorney at Public Rights Project, and there's some very real reasons why we're recommending litigation and affirmative litigation right now on behalf of a coalition of cities. First, affirmative litigation can invalidate HB Section 1 as a whole, rather than waiting for the administration to line item and reverse decisions made by this body and then challenge. We recommend affirmative litigation because it actually allows for the entire Section 1 of HB1 to be invalidated instead of waiting for a decision that's going to require several other intervening steps that could be disruptive to city operations as a whole. An affirmative case can be filed right now and can have the impact of invalidating this before it has any huge harm. Secondly, an affirmative case provides the opportunity to challenge the law as part of a movement, including as part of a coalition of cities. HB1 has a universal deterrent effect on budgeting that's affecting all cities right now. But each city has unique economic circumstances that trigger HB1 differently. So it's important not just to show the strength in numbers as this law and this state infringement is opposed, but to also illustrate the variety of harms that this law is having on city budgeting processes. And third, filing a case now means standing up to the impact that HB1 is having right now. The city's budgeting process is ongoing, and as it's ongoing, there are no definitions as to what could trigger HB1. There is no definition of whether a funding reduction is a line item or the whole budget. There's no definition and guidance as to limit what the administration commission can rewrite. And so the decisions that you're making right now could inadvertently trigger HB1, and that's creating uncertainty and impacting budget discussions all around Florida. So for these reasons, we recommend challenging HB1 as part of an affirmative suit to stop this infringement of state law right in its tracks, or of local law in its tracks.
Thank you. Thank you. Is anyone else going to speak? Okay, thank you. Now, this is a presentation. So I guess the next step would be if any one of us wanted to place this on the next agenda for action, that would be something that I think would be appropriate. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I think it's already on the next agenda.
It's already on the next agenda.
Yes, ma'am.
We're good. Thank you so much. Have a great night, and we appreciate your time here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I thought it was, but I just, okay. All right, moving right along. And if I stumble, I apologize.
Madam Mayor, if I might,
Sure.
I did already place an item for discussion on the next agenda, the 21st.
We just said that.
I understand that. What I might ask the commission to give some direction, I believe in the timing, it would be quite helpful if there is support for it. And I don't know how one would indicate that, but you folks are clever. It would be helpful at the time of the next meeting to have a resolution in place that if we so choose to approve it, it would be ready to go and vote on at that time. I believe the timing of the proposed suit, it would probably set them back considerably if we had to discuss it, present a resolution at the next one, then approve it. So my recommendation would be if there is support for this, which only the four of you can speak to that, that we give our council direction to go ahead and have a resolution ready.
Well, I understand what you're saying. I don't know if those folks, it's my understanding that they're going to be presenting this to a number of municipalities in the state. We're not the last one that we're going to be doing. Am I right about that? And Christy our attorney is shaking her head yes. So I think this is a valuable and an important conversation. I think that there's some subtleties in here that we need to look at. So and again, I think they're going to different, they didn't say we need this by the 21st or we're not going to be in there. So I would respectfully suggest that we have more, we have the background, we discuss it, and then we can put it on the next agenda if there's consent to do that. I don't hear them saying it needs to be done at the next meeting. Because it's going to be, we have to have a conversation. In concept, it sounds like a good thing, but I think we need to look more carefully into it. Our relationship with the sheriff's department is something we're going to have to talk about. And so I would not want to assume that we're going to support this without a conversation. And again, having our staff prepare something that may or may not work is once again adding things for the staff to do that may or may not be used, So I'm going to ask that we discuss it at the next meeting and then have is anyone there from the group about time, or are they all gone?
Yes, Mayor, I'm still on.
Okay. This is a discussion that we're going to have. It's obviously an important discussion. And are you going to be going, the Commissioner McVoy is concerned about the time frame, that if we don't have a resolution on this on the next agenda, then that's going to somehow hold you up. Is that the case? Are you going to other cities to talk about the same thing? What's your time frame?
Thanks for that question, Mayor. Yeah, the plan is definitely to try to get on file maybe by the end of October. We definitely don't want to cut any process short for cities who do want to join.
Right.
It'd be a real shame if there are cities that want to take advantage of this opportunity to join the coalition and then not bring them on board if it's just a matter of a few weeks.
Right.
But now that we have a couple cities on board, we definitely want to get on. Our hope is that once we're able to announce that Lake Worth Beach is on board, that'll actually make things a little bit easier with other cities. And once we have 3, 4, or 5 cities on board, we'll likely file.
Okay, so there's not a deadline for filing. You're talking about the end of October, essentially.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we discuss it at the next meeting and take action on the meeting after that, that's still just the beginning of October.
Yes.
And our city attorney is going to speak.
Madam Mayor, what you could do is, if the desire is to join in litigation, you could tell them we're going to join, and at the next meeting, we'll have a resolution to formalize that agreement.
We could let them know that that's what we've decided. We just have to form. Thank you. Okay, so that would make it, then that would cut that 2 weeks off as well. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I think we're going to go in the direction, and tell me if I'm wrong, that we are going to discuss it at the next meeting, and then we will, even if at that meeting, thank you for the suggestion, that we can call them up and go, we support you, we'll have a formal resolution at the next meeting. Okay, so that's a presentation, and I thank you very much. So we'll talk, so that's going to be on the agenda next time.
And not for discussion, we will be able to vote.
If you want, we can draft the agenda item so that it's actual item.
To be allowed to be voted on, not just for discussion.
Well, I mean, that's again, having staff do work that we don't, I mean, I have
That's
no
what
idea.
staff does, though.
It could be minimal, right? Like just, we could vote on moving
All
forward.
right, that's fine.
Switch it from a discussion to an actual item. I don't know if that agenda's out yet or not.
Came out
It is,
today.
came out today.
Yes.
It is out.
We
Yeah.
can make that tweak to it
Okay,
if you want. You guys can also just give consensus, and if it's, unanimous consensus, then we're off drafting up a resolution for the next meeting, and I don't think that prohibits you from calling them and saying, we've got consensus.
we're in. Now, Madam Clerk, is this on the next agenda, or this would be an addition?
Yes, it is. It
Okay, so
has
we're
already
good.
been added.
So we're good. We're good. Okay, that's fine. And if we have a resolution ready, that's fine. It is fairly formed.
It's several pages of lengthy legal jargon.
It
You'll
is.
probably understand.
Yeah, good luck.
You should have
If I'm
brought
off
it with
these
you in the
painkillers.
hospital.
I was like,
What?
You should have had it in the hospital. Give you something to do.
Oh, you know,
Busy.
the nurses were all saying, stop working. You're supposed to rest.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. That's a good, so we'll talk about it and act on it next time.
Okay.
All righty now. I'm just following this marching band. Now we are we, correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Clerk, are we at commission liaison reports and agendas now?
We are, Madam Mayor.
Oh my goodness, I got it right. Your script is very helpful. Thank you very much. So let's now.
What script?
Now we'll start with District 1. Commissioner Malega.
Wow, it's been a while since we've been able to do these. I'll keep it short, but informative. So first, I just want to say we attended the Youth Empowering event at the gym 2 weeks ago. Ben left. Ben came out and took some pictures. Arms of Hope put together a really good function at the city gym with 5 Olympians from Jamaica.
I love
So
it.
they came out, they gave the kids basically a pep talk, showed a bunch of medals. I got to see my first gold Olympic medal.
Oh,
They signed a basketball for all of us.
I love it.
And I don't know where that went to. I gave it to Mr. Robinson. It was his responsibility. He was there as well.
He sold it on eBay.
He did. It was on Amazon.
Amazon.
So that was a great event. I would
Proceeds
say.
going to the band.
It went to the band.
Yes, as long as the money goes to the band. So I want to say thank you to Patrick at Arms of Hope for putting that together. Thank you to the staff for stepping up. Gregory from the Leisure Services was there until 6 o'clock on his daughter's sweet 16th birthday. So I want to say thank you to them. As I mentioned a couple of times, I've been doing a nightly Wednesday event with the Community and Policing Action Forum for the Department of Justice grant. It's interesting, this HB1 bill came up. What we're doing for our action item for Lake Worth Beach is we're actually working myself, PBSO officer Bill Brannon. He was part of it as well. We are looking to do an advocate for a pilot program pairing a law enforcement officer with a mental health professional to combat the mental health awareness. And we're actually reaching out to the city of Delray Beach because they do it very well with their CARES officer. So that's one thing that I'll be asking for support as soon as we garner the legal jargon and how we're going to get there. I'll be asking for a letter of support from the dais to PBSO to facilitate the funding and moving some funds around to make sure that this happens, right? It's an actionable item. And then I just want to remind everyone that the Art of Recovery Film Festival is this weekend. It kicks off at 6 p.m. at the Hatch Building tomorrow night. Goes on Saturday at the Stanzik Theater. So please come out and support Manny and Healthy Lake Worth Beach and the Art of Recovery Film Festival. It is important, especially because we have a lot of people in this town that are in recovery. And this project is has really moved the needle and shined some light on a really important subject in our city. That's it.
Commissioner McCoy.
Just a couple short things. I met with Captain Bear recently and on Tuesday, I believe, because I was hearing a lot of concerns around the community of things that basically fall into quality of life quality of life issues. Particularly noise is one that's come up a lot, that there seems to be difficulty in getting our noise ordinance properly registered by the dispatch, PBSO dispatch. They sometimes aren't aware of what an ordinance really is. And sometimes officers are not fully aware of it. There were some other issues of speeding comes up, some things that overlap into code enforcement. But I've had concerns from a number of residents that they're very frustrated with some things in the city. So Captain Bear was very receptive to that, and hopefully we'll see some movement on some of those. I also joined the Don with the tourism study and was interested to learn from a question that bed tax receipts from, I forget what the proper name for them, Airbnbs, short-term rentals, vacation rentals, as a percentage of what used to be called just the hotel bed tax receipts. It's been rising steadily. I think they reported it was about 20%. They unfortunately don't have it by city. There's some statute that discourages the property tax folks to report it by city, but it's something that we should have on our radar, and it's a very significant amount of money, I think in the 50 million range for the county. So I'll keep my comments to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Stokes.
I'm just gonna stick to education, because that's my thing now, I guess.
Thing.
It's always been my thing, but it's my main thing. The education task force was able to meet again and get a little bit more solidified, and they're gonna be trying to bring something forward to the commission soon for us to vote on. As far as just solidifying the relationship between and clarifying the relationship between the city and the task force. So they're up and running, and I was able to go in their Rasha's Place today to the luncheon put on by the Literacy Coalition, and they unveiled their new book for the year. So that's exciting, and I'll be looking for support from everybody else on the commission as we try to get. It's a competition between cities, and I want to win.
Oh, I love it.
I wanna win.
Do you remember the name of the book?
It's it's about a dragon. It's
Oh, I love
elementary.
it.
So we want to try to get it right to as many kids in our city as possible. So if we have more than one person doing that.
So we can go to schools and read to classes?
Yes, yep. And it traditionally has been done in person. This year. It might be done over Zoom, but maybe we could each take a school and we can sort that out. It's in October 28th, I want to say. So, we'll be launching that campaign as a city, and
So would it be helpful for you to have the support of the other four of us to commit to taking a school?
Yeah. So, and
I see you shaking your head, Commissioner Boy. You're in it? You're in? You're silent.
I'm in.
Okay, Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
All right, Commissioner Maliga?
100%.
I'm in. I think we probably have a few other people in the room that might want to do that, but,
I still have to get all the rules
okay.
and everything's squared away, and then, so we'll be updating you on that shortly. And I also went to the League of Women Voters as a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization. They had a lunch and learn about education that I attended, and got to learn more about the behavioral. We voted that increase in our taxes to get more behavioral counselors in the schools and things of that nature. And met somebody from the district that's the head of equity over there, and I'll be meeting with him to follow up on how we can partner and make sure the resources for our city. So just busy trying to keep the education going in all directions.
Great. Thank you very much. Commissioner Robinson.
Just quickly, I really want to thank Patrick for bringing the Jamaican award-winning athletes of 20 years ago to inspire the students. We had a good attendance. It was a lengthy meeting, and I was there till the end. And he wants to do it again. I want to mention the music in Bryant Park on Sundays. The tree board, I hope will be continuing to meet just as all the other boards can address our canopy in the city. The library, this is Library Month, and they're offering some benefits to a new library card. So go to the library or visit the library on the website anyhow. The next agenda coming up after the deadline of the 16th for proposals for the reconditioning of the pool. I would hope that we will have an agenda item about the pool on our next immediate meeting after that deadline. I don't know what the dates are.
And that deadline is for the Juan.
Invitation for quote that was issued.
Okay.
I'll have to check with purchasing when the exact deadline for it is, but it should be coming up soon. I think it was out on the road for 4 weeks.
Right.
And then we'll bring an item forward.
And that's really just to find out the viability of pool as opposed to, and I'm hearing a lot of support to like really revamp the whole area as well.
And so I'm asking for an item on the agenda after that deadline, whatever it is, to have a vote to bring forward our next step to addressing the pool problem, our oceanfront park improvements. With not just a discussion, but with appropriate votes to move forward with that improvement. I want to thank P&Z and HRPB for their decisions and the consequences that they have to deal with. I know there's some quirks in our codes, and they allow some unusual planning that they have to deal with. And they did it very professionally. The Boynton Beach had a complete street mobility presentation. I know Lake Park is going to have one, and I'm hoping at some point we get around to it. A little late, but better late than never in terms of addressing mobility, whatever it may bring. I also mentioned that the impact fees from the developments, if it isn't spent in the area that the development occurred, that money has the opportunity to be returned to the city somehow. And there's legal questions coming, and we look forward to that settlement. The appraisals of our properties in Lake Worth, I'm going to say are questionable. And when we give tax breaks to historic preservation incentives, I would recognize that the economic divide between people who have the ability to improve their property and get a tax break, somehow we should be able to incentivize people on a much less investment, but nevertheless an investment in their property somehow to encourage and incentivize all improvements. And I've already mentioned the Jewish New Year, and I look forward to our decisions together for the greater good of Lake Worth Beach.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're all here for the greater good. I have a few things. I want to start out by saying, please get vaccinated. I have to say this, I was vaccinated. I got a breakthrough case. I've been in the hospital for almost a week. At the same time, a distant member of my family did not get vaccinated, and he died last night.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, it's insane. So I really have to ask, please get vaccinated. It saved my life. I did not have the kind of reaction to it. It was a very odd experience, let me tell you, but having been in the hospital with it now, I just got out this afternoon. I just encourage us, wear masks, socially distance, but I believe that, and I know it's controversial, don't get mad at me, but I'm just asking that to be something that you consider if you haven't before.
But for the record, Madam Mayor, you are negative now. You tested.
I'm negative.
Okay.
I'm now negative. Thank you for pointing that out. I'm positive in my attitude,
You're positive.
but negative in my COVID.
That's correct.
I have a couple of things. Procedure. We have a staff that works really hard. They have things that they have to do just to do the jobs that they do. Sometimes we have one of us will have a project that we think is an important project and deserves attention and deserves staff time. I'm going to ask, and I think we need to be clear, and I think there is a procedure, and I'm just here tonight to sort of remind us of the procedure. If, let's say I have a pet project that I think that I need staff to help me with something and to spend staff time. I believe the proper way to do it would be for me to come and say, hey, I think this, I've got this idea, come to the commission, I've got this idea. Do we have consensus to give to Juan, to give our city manager the direction to follow that? Because everything we ask them to do is something that they don't have time to do their jobs. And so I'm asking us to please be mindful of that, not to we all have things that we're interested in, and they're certainly, I'm sure, absolutely worthwhile. But there's a fine line, and that line, I think there's a fine line between us doing policy and us directing staff to do things. And so I'm asking us, and it is a fine line, and we have a great staff and they're very accommodating. But I think that we need to bear in mind that the city manager is the person to go to when you think that you have something after you come to the commission and say, I have this idea about putting merry-go-round at the park. What do you think? Whatever.
That idea.
I know, I just came up with that. The wheel,
Aye.
right. So I'm asking, I'm just reminding us that we have a staff that, and we've been hit with COVID, we've been hit with some staff shortages, and we have a very diligent staff that works so hard, and we need to recognize that. So I'm asking us that if I have an idea, or if any one of us has an idea that actually involves talking to, for example, a department head, and asking for a task for them to do, that we don't do it that way, that we come there for that kind of thing, I believe. And again, it's a little procedural, I'm procedural tonight. But I think it's only fair to staff, and I think it's only fair to us, because if we've got staff working on something that there is not consensus that the city should be working on, now we've got time that's not being used properly. So I'm asking for us to bear that in mind, and to really follow the procedure. If you think it's a good idea and it's worthy, bring it, any one of us, bring it forward, get consensus that we can give it to the city manager so that he can he's the guy that's running the city. So that, as long as he knows that that's where we get the policy.
Mhm.
So I'm asking us all to recognize that and respect it, because it is a matter of respect for our staff. We had the finance, the other day, the turnover we've had, so I don't want to ramble on about it, but I think it's very important. I love the idea of Manny and the recovery. We had the LW Film Festival 2 years ago, and their group was there, and it was it's really inspiring. And thank you. I don't know that I'm going to be going out in public for a while, but I don't want to do this again. But thank you. We have. I'm working, as I think a lot of you know, code enforcement is near and dear to my heart, and I think that there are certain very simple things that we can do to make. And I get a lot. I know we all do a lot of emails about what's happening with code enforcement. Some of it justified, some of it not. There's always at least two sides to every story. But I'm working, and I'll be presenting it to you guys just as an informal thing soon. I don't know when. Just some basic, simple things to make it easier. For example, like the format of how the notice of violation goes out. It's a hard job. Code enforcement, nobody wants code enforcement to knock at the door. But I've also heard there are, I'm always representing people before I got elected. There are certain areas that I think really do need attention. And one of the things that I'm going to propose is, in terms of substantive things, is if you have a rental, and I'm a landlord, if you have a rental and you don't live in the city, or within, half an hour of the city, that you have, and I don't know if this is legal, that you have a designated personal property manager that within 24 hours can actually show up at the property. And so when the code says, because a lot of people have code problems that are their tenants, and they are afraid to turn things in because of the landlords. And so I think that it would be helpful for the city at large to have personal responsibility for landlords, to actually have somebody there to take a look and fix the problem. That's one of the things that I'm working on. So I'll be coming back to you on that one. I also want to thank the staff. I met with Joan Oliva. We have the L&M project is a very controversial one, and the RFP is pretty much dead in the water. We're looking at different alternatives for those properties. I toured a few of them with Ms. Oliva a couple of weeks ago, and it has always irked me, and I've been very open about this, that people were evicted. They were living there, and they were evicted when the city and the CRA took over. And I would like, and there's nothing really on the books right now. So staff, William Waters and Juan, and we talked, and we're now having structural inspections of all the buildings just to see where they're at, whether they can be, because again, we have no plans right now. So if they're inhabitable, or what needs to be done, or if there's a project, there has been some private interest in the project. that if those buildings are feasible to actually rehab and keep, because we, again, we're trying to keep the small town. So, and I want to thank the staff for going along with that and for appropriating the funds to do that. It's very important because that is, after all, my backyard. That's pretty much all I have, but I'm very, and maybe I've had a lot of time to think. But the procedure things, it's really easy to act on our own, and we are a body. And I think that we need to, and I think we're doing really well. We are respecting each other, even if we don't agree on things. But I think that we owe it to the staff and to the community to know that we're working as a group. So that's all. Thank you. Let me look at the agenda where we are now.
Madam Mayor,
Yeah.
you mentioned as one of your items a request that none of us as commissioners approach department heads or matter requests without first bringing it to the commission. Would that apply to meeting with
No,
department?
I'm really talking about tasking staff, asking for information. I mean, everything that the staff does that is not within the purview of their day-to-day job, keeping the lights on, keeping the water clean, keeping, just the work that they do.
Well,
Can I finish? I'll finish with my sentence. And I don't think it is fair to the staff or to the other commissioners to have staff time spent on, as worthwhile as it might be, a project that's going to take staff time away from their normal jobs. So going and meeting with somebody, talking to somebody about something is one thing, but asking for a result, asking for extra work, really, again, if I have an idea, I'm not saying, I would say, go to the department head, what do you think about this? And then bring it here. If it's going to use staff time, if it's just a conversation about, what do you think about this, and you have a half-hour conversation, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, here's a project I'm interested in, I want you to go forward with it, because that is not, that's not a team effort, and we are a team.
With all due respect, that sounds very positive. And obviously, we don't have infinite staff, and staff does not have an infinite time. I certainly agree with that. However, and I beg to differ a little bit with the characterization of, a given commissioner might have a pet project. Well, what if it really is in the process of any given commissioner trying to look out for the interests of the residents of the whole city, that they need data and information to make good decisions? And they may need some of that data as they're thinking about what to bring to the commission. And I think an effort to make it more difficult for commissioners to acquire the data that they need to help govern wisely and inform the city, I have a lot of hesitation with that approach.
And then I respectfully, I'm on my comments now. We usually don't have a conversation, but that's okay. I respectfully disagree. I think that if there is, if there's something, we have staff that has jobs. And for us to come in and say, I've got this other little job, this other little project without consensus, if it's for the good of the city, why wouldn't we all talk about it and give consensus just to Juan about, or the city manager about going forward?
I think we could use some better guidelines. Like if it's like, hey, Bruce, our finance guy, if it takes him 2 minutes to pull a number for us, I think we need to put, how much time would it take you to run this report? 15 minutes? Okay, I don't have to wait 2 weeks to bring it back to the commission. And then when he runs that report, he needs to email it to every single person up here, not just the person who asked for it. So I do think we could use putting some time boxes and better.
I think we need to use some discretion. Okay,
yes.
And I've been hearing some things that I think that have been just a little bit beyond that. I try not to. I try to go to Juan when I have a question because he's the boss of this staff. And I think that, there's a difference between asking questions and saying what, to the department head and saying, I want you to do this. Maybe if the sentence begins with, I want you to do this, that would be something that would come to the commission for consensus. And unless it's an emergency, but I really think that we need to I do think that we need to be respectful of our staff time. We are having a high turnover. And I believe that it is in the best interest of the city as a whole and our citizens as a whole to have a combined effort on the direction of the city. And so I don't know if we disagree, Commissioner McVoy. Maybe we're just looking at it differently, but I don't think it's our place to.
I don't know if I do feel like this is, and perhaps I feel that incorrectly, and you can clarify if that's the case, but I do feel this is somewhat directly directed at me, and the only data request situation that I can think of.
Okay, I don't want to get into it, okay? I mean, I'm saying, all I'm saying is, I believe that I don't want to get into who, what, where, if, I'm just saying that I believe that we need to be respectful of staff. We need to be respectful of each other because it might be something that nobody else has interest in. And now you've got staff working on something that really has no interest. We're opening this up a little bit, even though it's just comments, but you've got your light on, Commissioner Robinson, and I'm going to be a little generous. I'm in a generous mood.
Thank you
It's my first night back. It's been a month.
For being so generous.
I appreciate it.
Just the shared information is what I value.
Mhm.
And I have a concern for a sidewalk not in my district. I think we should all know about it. Just the shared information of a request for data or whatever. Just the shared information, that the give and take that you're talking about.
Right, but I'm okay, and that's a little bit different. And for example, in Commissioner Maliga's district, the Lake Osborne Drive folks are having a real problem. I think you're aware of this. Are having a real problem with accidents and are looking for some solutions. They approached me. I went out and met with Lynn Anderson and their folks and looked at it because that's fine. And that was not staff, that was me on my own time. But now that we've got something, we're asking Jamie, we're asking Captain Bear to actually take a look at it.
Which we did.
I said in my email to the folks that are asking, because it is Commissioner Maliga's area, she's interested in it, give her the option to work on that,
And I did as well.
Yeah.
But I think we should all know about what's happening in the city.
Yep.
Not just in somebody's district.
No, and I, of course, have jurisdiction over the entire city, so I get to know everything. No, it's just a joke. But my initial comment is quite specific about the difference between setting a policy and tasking staff to do things. And I think that we owe their staff. I think we owe our city manager respect to, he is the leader. And I also think that if I have something that I think is important and it's going to take staff time, not just have a conversation, but it's actually going to take staff time, there needs to be we set the policies, there's got to be some consensus that staff time be spent.
I agree with you, Madam Mayor, as learning, and I tell Juan this all the time, being a business owner and making decisions, and then being a policymaker, there's a fine line.
Mhm.
And I'll sometimes if I step out, back in, or, I always come to them and say, is this something like, how do we address this? Like with the thing with Lake Osborne, we got Jamie Brown involved, and we got, I went to Juan first, and he got Jamie at the table, and Jamie got Captain Barron, and we followed the steps. And I'm often trying to remind myself as policymaker, not decision maker, there's a big difference.
And task maker.
Well, that's decision making, is tasking.
And what I'm trying to do, because it's a little bit different as the mayor, I'm trying when I can. I know that in District 2, Commissioner McVoy is involved with the traffic. There's a car place that's creating a lot of problems. And I believe I believe Commissioner McVoy that you're talking about that you're dealing with code enforcement about that. I think in the emails that I've been seeing.
I have had several emails from residents that all pointed to a problem with, I don't know which business, I haven't been able to find it, but, and yes, I have definitely raised that with code. I didn't ask for any data. I didn't ask for anything.
Sir, I'm not suggesting that. You don't be defensive. We're talking about, we said change the subject. We're talking now about just sharing, like Herman said, just sharing, what's going on. And I have to.
We do need some policy clarification that if a resident asks me about something.
That's a different story.
do I need to send an email, copy that to everybody that, hey, I'm requesting from Yolanda to look into this? I'm happy to do that if that's the thing. But I'm concerned about sunshine law things, we'll need some directions at how to do it. As far as Commissioner Robinson's suggestion that if anybody had to help make better policy based on facts and data, that data, whatever staff person provides it, that the commissioner who's been involved and taken the initiative on it, ask that data be sent to all commissioners. I completely agree. I think that's an excellent idea.
Right, and the car, okay, you're done, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
And I would extend that if any of us are meeting with, different organizations, the CRA or department heads, I think we should share what we're finding with all of the commission. I think that's a good idea as well.
And from time to time, that's true. I really want to stick to the core issue that I started with, which is the use of staff time for projects, for special projects, that may or may be, if you have something that you think, wait, this is not just going to be a conversation with the department head, there's going to be work involved, bring it to the commission. I have this idea. I think it's a good idea. Do you all agree that it's worth staff time? And if we have a consensus that it is or is not worth staff time, then that gets probably, number one, publicly discussed. And number two, handed to the correct person, Robinson.
And do we need to do this, just so we understand the procedure? So I need to know in advance, 2 weeks in advance, what might be a policy that's coming up that I might need data for. So I asked to have it be put on the agenda as an item for discussion. Then maybe it will be approved, and maybe I can get the data that I need to help suggest good policy. Is that the procedure?
I think so. I think, again, special projects.
Special projects is a label that you're putting on it. Getting data as a commissioner to make good decisions is not a special project. That is simply good governance.
I think in fairness to the commission and in fairness to staff, we need to be a little more respectful and a little more discerning in how we approach that. Because we are, every time I or anyone else asks for something about something, it's taking a staff member away from the job that they woke up that morning to do. And we don't have extra staff, and we really can't hire somebody to do, we can't add to we have to be really careful about adding to staff time. Commissioner Robinson, I know I don't then one.
Well, yeah, I hate, we could talk
Yeah,
a long time.
it's really just.
But in all due respect, I don't know that we voted on any expenditure to inspect the buildings on the LNM project. And I don't know why the CRA isn't paying for any cost incurred.
Okay, that's fair enough.
I mean, if you meet with somebody in the CRA, that's taking staff time, whether it's researching data or whether it's.
I'm going to stop the conversation. We're really going down a lot of rabbit holes now. I'm just asking fair enough, Robinson, I agree with that. So that's all I want to say. That's all I want to say.
Well, you are the CRA liaison. That is your.
I am the CRA liaison.
I mean,
yeah, and that is something that those buildings are there. They're owned by the city, and we need to do something about them. But I understand what you're saying, Commissioner Robinson. One,
Madam Mayor, if I may just help put a bow tie so we can move on.
please do. I want to go home.
Can you put some gorilla tape on it?
I want to go home and take a pain.
The last thing that we want to do, because we worked really hard together as a group, the department head, the elected body, and everyone together to create an organization that works together, full transparency, and we're working toward common goals, okay? One thing that's missing, okay, 6 months in office, is a very important process, which is our strategic visioning process that feeds our work plans, that feeds into our annual budgets, that helps set policy and provide direction. So until we have that meeting and you as a body create that new vision, reset that vision, because we're still in essence working from a strategic plan that was adopted two and a half years ago. Okay. So there are different levels of information inquiries. There's things that I can reply back pretty quick, a phone call. It's just part of our daily workload, which is not an issue. Specifically, what I'm talking about, the concern that's growing is conversations that do require essentially significant amount of staff time that potentially have policy ramifications or new policy introductions, which could include up to legal time being spent as well as part of that. And when we're introducing new policy, okay, it should be part of an overall
Actually, she has better when it
vision,
starts.
that we're pursuing, that has goals and objectives and really defined outcomes. So we just need to be concerted and be mindful of, and really the challenge is for you to interact with the city manager's office so that we're moving forward. But if you're gonna wanna engage staff to kind of stop, pivot, and go down a different policy direction that's different than what our workflow is already designed to do, then I think that's where we're asking for a little bit of a understanding that we can't just stop what we're doing and just turn right all the time. All right, so there, preferably, an item can come forward if it has a future policy ramification to it, that it comes to the commission, it gets vetted, and then direction can be handed, down my way. Then I can say to staff, okay, we have a new priority. We're gonna change our workflow. We're gonna change our work plan. We're gonna modify it. And this is where I want your effort spent. That's a little different. That's a lot more planned out than just, hey, I need to talk to so-and-so and I need, X number of hours of work, which you don't know your calculation of hours that we're gonna spend doing it when you ask. All good deed goes unpunished, right? Good intentions, but it can be very disruptive. And right now we are combating with COVID protocols that sends people on the sideline. We're dealing with vacancies. There's a lot being, thrown out there, even with just a normal workload. So
We talked about agenda review.
well, and that's
that would help.
we have talked about setting a separate agenda review kind of open conversation, right? And that's been challenging to create another meeting.
Exactly.
As you can
We've been
imagine.
a little busy.
Okay, but again, I appreciate your comments, Mayor. And again, we're all trying to, continue to work together along with our department heads so we can keep moving forward. But we do have to be mindful and be protective of everyone's role, because all of our roles are a little different. And, the last thing I want to do is create an environment that everything has to come to the city manager. There's no communication directly with the department heads, which is an environment we worked really hard even before this elected body to create, so that you did have the opportunity to sit down with, because they're the subject matter experts.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
I'm just a jack of all trades, master of nothing, right? So we don't want to, change that environment, because I think it's very effective when it's done properly. But everyone has to recognize their roles and protect those roles. And every once in a while, we got to just remind the crew, hey, we got to clean the process up a little bit, but let's keep moving forward. We all want to do what's best for the city at the end of the day.
I would like to empower staff, because if we don't know, I'm used to working with very efficient systems. So if I ask for something, I might be assuming that they can just type 4 words into a computer and generate that for me. So I think staff should know that us as a body are mindful of their time, and they should feel empowered to say, I would love to get those numbers for you. It is going to take me an hour and a half to do that.
Right.
Because they're the subject, they know that what they can do. So I don't want to create a situation where we're scared, like you're saying, to even talk to them.
And it's,
But they need to be
typical that
empowered.
We go to staff and say, I want you to do this. What are they going to say to a commissioner? I'm not going to do it.
They should say that's going to take me an hour and a half of
Yeah,
time.
next week.
Well, I think, I don't, and I appreciate your comments, Commissioner Stokes, I wasn't cutting you off or interrupting you. We don't have any department directors that are, afraid to speak up. I think you guys have all established relationships with all of them, maybe more with others because you spend more time with certain ones. But if there's ever a concern, they would reach out and say, hey, I spoke with Commissioner Stokes, this is what she asking. Yeah, we talked about it, go ahead and get it for her, whatnot. 99% of the time, I feel like we've been extremely responsive and open to helping you guys get information because we want you to make well-informed decisions. Okay, especially huge policy conversations. But then again, there's some of that day-to-day, okay, this happened, that happened.
That's
and we're
different.
chasing things, and I don't really think that's what we're really talking about. And yes, Commissioner Stokes, we have been, our technology, at times can be difficult to produce information really fast. Some of the most obvious stuff you could ask for, sometimes is obvious enough for Navaline to kind of spit out. And we all are growing, you guys are growing more familiar with our struggles with our enterprise resource planning system. We've talked about, in a different conversation about evolving to something newer that's more responsive with dashboards, and data should be able to be at our fingertips and whatnot, because that's efficient management as well.
And I think there's a good comparison with a public records request. We've dealt with them, a public records request for, hey, I need this. Well, that's easily printed out forward. But then if I'm looking for every commission meeting which dealt with this issue, that's more gathering stuff. And that's when we get to charge people to do that, which, it's because it is taking staff time. So I think we've beat the dead horse a little bit.
Mayor.
I appreciate that. So those are the ends of my comments.
Wow.
It's good family time spent.
It is good family.
Procedure.
Okay, so now we have public participation of non-agended items and consent agenda. Madam Clerk, are there any public comments?
We actually have no public comments at all this evening or anything.
That's just insane.
For anything?
Nothing.
Because we're doing such a great job.
Might be a first time.
What's gonna happen next week?
Oh, yeah. No good deed goes unpunished.
It's because it's a Thursday.
Okay, so now we have the consent agenda.
Nope.
Nope.
Approval. of minutes.
I'm sorry, right. The approval of minutes. I got a little scared. Approval of the minutes. Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Any second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, thank you. And now the next is the consent agenda. I see on the consent agenda, there is a resolution. And I'm wondering if it would be a proclamation there's a D, which is a proclamation. Should we just pass it, or normally we read proclamations? Do you think for the record it would be good to read it or just pass it?
Madam Mayor, normally if the person's not here to
We
receive
don't.
the proclamation.
Perfect, thank you. Moving right along. Do I have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
Motion.
Okay, and we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. All in favor?
I'm sorry, who made that motion?
Malika McVoy.
It was a little confusing.
Yeah.
They're very anxious to work tonight. Malika made the motion, and let's just say McVoy seconded it. Sorry if I any disrespect for you. It's nothing personal. On to unfinished business.
I'm gonna just.
Public hearings. No, public.
I'll be right back.
Oh, you want to take a break?
Just a quick, I just want to, before we get into the meat of everything.
Okay.
Restroom real quick.
Public hearing.
We still have a quorum.
Still the what?
A quorum.
We still have a quorum.
Still have a quorum.
Let's keep going. Let's keep going. The pills are wearing off.
Sorry about that.
No, that's
Glad
okay.
Hospital, at least, that's something.
Yeah. Okay, so now we have public hearing. Second reading of the ordinance 2021-11, amending the candidate qualifying period. Mr. City Attorney, would you read the ordinance?
Yes, Madam Mayor, ordinance number 2021-11 of the City of Lake Worth Beach, Florida, amending section 2-14.1 of chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances regarding candidate qualifying period, providing for severability, conflicts, application, and an effective date.
Thank you. I'm just here. Okay, that's good. Now we have we have another one. We have
Unfinished.
unfinished business.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, Madam Mayor, we need a vote on the ordinance.
We don't just read it, we need a vote. Do I have a
Move to approve.
move to approve by Commissioner McVoy, seconded by Commissioner Robinson? And all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very
Aye.
much. Thank you. We're moving on to unfinished business. We've discussed this at length, the approval of the Legal Aid Association, the agreement to support the legal aid eviction support to benefit Lake Worth Beach residents. City Attorney, can you please explain the changes made to the meeting?
Yes, Madam Mayor, what we did between the last time we brought this before you and this time is we kind of clarified further how the money would be spent by legal aid. We also included some language to make sure that when the city pays out this money, it has to be in accordance with ARPA requirements so that we are sure that we have full reimbursement. And those were the changes made. They were accepted by legal aid. And so the final product is in your agenda.
Thank you.
And I'm concerned about foreclosures caused by non-payment of rent and banks being responsible for understanding that there's an issue with non-payment of rent. And can we have legal aid to the landowner, the property owner who is being foreclosed by a bank who doesn't understand?
I think that we discussed that, and I think there is a separate fund. I was interested in that as well as a landlord. And I believe there is a fund for landlords that is separate from this. Legal.
Paid by who?
Not really sure that I don't know.
There's mortgage assistance through the county of Palm Beach County.
Right.
And I think they're still sitting on like $6 point some million that has not been allocated yet.
And our legal aid that we're authorizing will direct them to that aid? Okay.
Yes, they certainly could represent a tenant who's facing eviction due to a foreclosure. So that would be covered by their agreement if that's the basis for the eviction.
But I think his concern is the landlords who are not getting their rent paid.
I'm talking about the bank foreclosures.
That's separate.
And I do believe.
Well,
there is.
it's part of the problem.
Right, totally. But I do think there are, and we asked them legal aid when they were presenting, and I remember the specifics because again, I'm as a landlord concerned about that. But there are, I don't have them here, but I know there are programs. This, I think we're just dealing specifically, and we discussed this at length.
But yes, legal aid does have the information. They said that they were providing that to homeowners because we all asked about that during the presentation.
Yeah.
Well, and it's in the latest.
No, this is only about tenants.
Right.
Right.
This agreement just deals with tenants who are being evicted, whatever the cause for the eviction is. This allows legal aid to represent them. If it's dealing with a property owner who's being foreclosed because they couldn't collect rent, I believe legal aid has other abilities to represent those homeowners.
Madam Clerk, are there any comment cards?
There are no comment cards for any items.
Well, I'm gonna have to ask you each time, just in case one gets slipped in. You know, I've messed up before. And people were very mad at me. I got a lot of emails. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Oh, go ahead. Go right ahead.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, great. Now we're going on to new business. A. And this is an interlocal agreement between Palm Beach County and the city of Lake Worth Beach for utility adjustments for the 6th Avenue South over Lake Osborne Drive project.
Motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Let's have, do we have a staff report?
Yeah, quick report on this one.
Sure.
Madam Mayor, Commission.
Thank you.
Good evening. Yeah, simple item, interlocal agreement with Palm Beach County. They'll be rebuilding the George Webb Bridge over Lake Osborne Drive at 6th Avenue between Congress and I-95, smoothing out a vertical curve to make it safer for the motorists. As part of that, we have water mains that cross the road, so we're in the county right of way. So by state statute, we have to move them in accordance with this project. So they've included it in their project. A good bid price we pay them when the project is completed. Our original estimate was about $250,000, and the bid number came in $149,000 and change. So a good number. The county will manage the project, and then we pay them at the end of the day. And it's a routine roadway project.
And you have the ability to inspect it.
Yes, it'll be our facilities. So our staff takes care of inspecting our facilities that are improved and relocated as part of the project.
So do we have a motion and a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry to make you wait around so long. We have my favorite staff member coming up here.
Oh.
Hello, little girl. Now we are on item B, which is, it's an agreement with NZ Consultants for planning, zoning, and historic preservation professional services. And I am very, very interested to hear what this is about.
Mayor and Commissioners, Julie Waters, Community Sustainability Director. On an annual basis, we have a contract with an outside planning firm to provide staffing resources and sundry help if staff can't get to something. This was done through a competitive bid process. NC Consultants has been our outside consultant, I believe, for the past 5 years. There are no identified projects necessarily except for one, and one of those is actually working for a future land use and zoning change for some property that the city will be acquiring or exchanging for a utility substation.
And where is that?
That's around south of 6th Avenue.
That's the 6th Avenue project. Yeah.
And the consultant will provide some staff support for that since we are a little bit stressed when it comes to staff resources.
Yeah.
The same consultant is doing the staff report and future land use change and zoning change for the school board request on their property on South Winfield. No, it's by Barton School.
Okay.
Yes.
Andrew Redding.
Right. And that's, and right now, because we are not completely staffed, they do have an outside person helping us do plan review, some research on property files, and also permit review.
And is this necessary because we are short-staffed?
It's twofold. One, it is to provide backup expertise in town when we don't have enough staff to tackle things, because we are not in the fortunate position to have a lot of staff just kind of hanging around. And we did have a real big bump, as you've experienced. A whole lot of projects all came in at once.
Right.
And so we did have to have some help from an outside person to help us not get too far behind. It is not the goal to dump things on the outside consultant. We don't have anything identified specifically. One of the strategic items that the interim city manager mentioned is in our strategic plan. There was an idea to do neighborhood planning, and that was one thing that we identified that this person could do for us. They've already done a template. We just haven't had a chance to roll it out to each neighborhood to do that neighborhood plan. That's one thing we'll probably be bringing back to you once we get into the strategic planning discussion.
Is it one person or is it, I mean?
She's got a whole array of staff.
And what's?
It's Nilsa Zacharias.
Okay.
She is the planning consultant for the city of Tequesta. She is the lead planning person for the city of Westlake. She has a variety of staff components. She's provided us GIS support when we lost those two positions vacated by the people who were in them. They provide us some historic preservation support. They provided planning and zoning, future land use. They did our entire comp plan update as a secondary contract in 2016-17. And they helped us with another update in 2018.
And there's where I have a little bit of a concern. In terms of future land use, in terms of comp plan, how this, because we're all talking, we're very interested in how the city is going to look in 30 years. And I think that there's value in having someone who's, that if people are going to, those are essentially policy decisions, zoning changes. And I really feel I'm personally more comfortable if the people that are making those decisions about the future of our city are employed by the city and not so much an outside consultant. And I don't want to throw a wrench into the works, but that's my concern. We outsource a few things, and that's fine. I have no problem with the outsourcing itself, but if we're talking about, those are big policy decisions. And I'm just concerned that, they pop, they come in, they do their work and they go home. They have no intrinsic investment in the future of the city. That's my concern. And I see a couple of lights on.
That would be a legitimate concern. However, staff does oversee their work. Nothing is brought forward and just adopted without input from Planning and Zoning Board, the Historic Resource Preservation Board, sometimes the CRA Board, and definitely the City Commission. Nilsa and her team have actually come to several workshops with the City Commission. When we were doing the comp plan update, she interviewed every single department head, every single commissioner, and the mayor at least twice to get input, and then helped us with our neighborhood outreach. So it's not done in a vacuum. We don't just send it off to them and say, come up with something and then come back.
Well, I mean, that's helpful. That's why I'm just trying to find out how this works. I see Commissioner Robinson and Commissioner Malika I think Robinson was first.
Well, and Nelson's been for how long?
Well, she was involved with, she first got involved with the city on the Citizens Master Plan under, I forget which planning firm did that back in 2004.
Yeah.
And then she's been our planning executive, a sundry person for, I think, 6 years. And this will be her 7th, but the previous contract only covered 5.
So in her work, I would like at the end of it to establish some sort of new zoning for the Sunset Farm.
That's a whole.
That's a whole different.
Oh, we're already on that rabbit hole.
I would not recommend delegating that to her
Right.
because the institutional knowledge to bring that forward would cost a fortune for us to catch an outside person up.
Right.
We have Glenn Tracivia, who's been involved with it
Right.
since I've been involved with it just about, and there's others. And that is a really big can of worms to discuss.
Mhm.
It's getting under control a little bit, I think, but it is something.
So we're
And
not,
that's helpful. I'm sorry.
we're not going to address it then through her.
Yeah.
So, but we are going to have to address it in the near future, or do we kick it down there?
We have to. address
We are
it.
not kicking, no.
We have gumption.
I think we've all
Okay.
talked to, I think they've heard from all of us the urgency that we want this resolved.
And it's been an urgent matter for staff too, because it's been laying out.
Oh, my God.
As a question for
Yeah.
the entire time that I've been
Good,
here.
looking forward to it. The last, most recent planning and zoning meeting had a 25-foot lot issue. I think the zoning allows for building on 25-foot lots, but when they're adjoining, we ran into a little bit of a unfortunate design in adjoining 25-foot lot development. And can that be rectified or stopped?
Well, there was not a decision made. There are 4 lots of record. It was before the Historic Resource.
North
Preservation
L
Board.
Street.
The proposal that came forward did not have staff's recommendation to move forward with it. It did not meet the intent of our historic preservation guidelines, or it will be coming back.
Yeah, I watched that meeting.
But can we address it in the code or in the plan not to have that happen again?
In what way? I mean, I'm not being, frank, but.
Oh, Madam Mayor, we're getting off.
I don't want to be the mean girl tonight, but.
All right, so Nelson's not going to address that either.
No, it's not.
All right. And is she going to address ADUs?
Only if we get down to the road where we need to
Yeah.
request her assistance.
This is,
Okay,
this is
good.
an extension of Williams' planning staff, essentially, that gets triggered at our triggering
Yeah,
and at our involvement and at what level, so.
And that information was helpful, that it's just.
okay.
out
All
there.
good
I
concerns,
just
but
hope we know where we're going, that's all.
Commissioner Leah.
My question is in regards to budget.
Right.
So this is, I see is under professional services, but if this is really making up for somebody whose position we already had funded through planning and through your department's sustainable program, why isn't it going through that same bucket? So if she's really helping us because we're short on staff, are we seeing an increase in that part of your budget? Because this is coming out of professional services?
Okay, we already have staff positions that are allocated.
That's what I'm
We
saying.
might have them all filled and still need some help. That has happened. Right
Your cup
now, we need help
overfloweth.
because all positions are not filled.
Right.
And so professional services for an outside consultant, from a budgetary standpoint, need to be allocated in professional services or contractual services, not under staff.
That's why I'm trying to understand this budget. So if you're heavy though in staffing because you don't have staff for those numbers, and we're short in professional services, how does that work with your budget? Let's say you have $70,000 that's not spent on salaries, right? But it's showing that you're going to be $25,000 short from professional services if this goes to 75,000. Does that money get transferred
You
over?
cannot transfer staffing monies to and professional services. There is a potential project that may come about in discussions with you that would involve other departments' money besides Department of Community Sustainability.
Okay, so we could get
wanted
another
this
funding.
To allow for that to happen if you so choose to move forward with that project.
Okay, that's all I needed to know. Thank you.
Commissioner Maliga, unused payroll at the end of the fiscal year essentially just follows the fund balance, but it's common to transfer funds throughout accounts, but not from, we try not to transfer dollars from payroll accounts to do operating expenditures. And so
Even though essentially we're paying for professional service because we don't have somebody filling that position at that time?
No,
We don't do transfers that way.
The way this is more of an extension to existing staff related, but not really related in a way.
Okay, thank you for
Really
explaining.
about
That was my
addressing
only,
workload.
that was my only question. I just didn't know if there was gonna be a transfer.
Educational standpoint.
Thank
We
you.
do have a cost recovery component, so that we had this special thing come up at the request of a private entity, developer. Then if we had to hire, say, Wheels to help with that, we could pass on the cost of that work to that developer, that constituent or property.
To offset our expense. Okay, thank you.
And it's a maximum of 75,000.
I'll be back, see.
You come back, right? Commissioner, before you've come back on screen, do you have any questions? Bring your light with you?
He's gone.
Oh, he cut himself off.
Okay, I guess not. Hi, you're back.
Yes, the technology is a little over my head, but I just wanted to say that I agreed with the concern that you, Mayor, raised at the beginning. I had a similar one that I raised with Juan, and I have no concern necessarily with the individual consultant. I think they have a lot of experience and expertise, but I hear you on that concern. I think I'm comfortable that the specific tasks that they would be put onto would not come into the area of concern that you and I have expressed, or that you've expressed.
Use zoning, because those are very much policy decisions.
I couldn't agree more, and I agree with the sentiment that, let's try to keep that done by staff that are actually here.
And I'm going to write that down, that we agreed on that tonight.
Thank you. I'm on it.
Okay,
All right.
motion to approve?
Second.
Bye-bye. Commissioner, what's the name, Stokes? Commissioner Robinson and Commissioner Stokes. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. The next one is a little, sort of along the same lines of outsourcing with hybrid has been, hybrid is still Mike, principal. They've been ours for a long time. And you went through the vetting process and they came out the highest?
The vetting process was done several years ago. This is an extension of a continuous contract.
Yeah.
There were 3 that were selected originally. The third one had a change in ownership and name, so it was not covered under the previous solicitation.
Mhm.
So we're now down to 2, which would be hybrid and cap. And right now, just so you'll know, we have 3 code inspector plans reviewer positions that are vacant that we've not been able to fill. So we're relying quite a bit on cap and hybrid.
And they will act as code enforcement officers as well?
This is
Tell
only
me.
for building.
Oh, okay, it's planning.
CAP is able to provide code compliance services, but that's not covered under this component. That's a separate contract. Maybe we would bring that back to you if we got into the predicament where we needed additional code compliance, but I don't really have any money in the budget to hire CAP for, unless it were a special project, which they did help us this summer to catch up on use occupancy inspections. We had a little bit of money. I think it was right at $24,000 that we spent with CAP to try to catch us up on the exterior inspections for use and occupancy, so our business licenses could go out and have a seamless, or hopefully seamless, renewal process.
Okay, because I think I've made everyone pretty publicly aware of the fact that I do have some issues with the way the code process works, and I would like to see, and I know you've got staffing issues and they're really hard to deal with, but I would like to see employees of the city being coded, like we had there was a CDGB fund. There needs to be, and we'll talk about this more, but consistency, we need to have a conversation, I think.
It helped us, but we are much more successful when the code compliance staff work directly for the city.
Right, thank you.
That's,
you have a light on?
well, I just wanted to agree with you that the code enforcement is employee.
Right, because code is the face of the city, and I mean, I cannot tell you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Just so you'll be aware, so we have 4 officer positions vacant.
I know.
And at least 1 admin position in code.
Yeah.
So we're trying to fill those aggressively, but right now.
It's a hard job to fill.
Positions.
I know you do, and I think we just had one more, and
Yes, we did have another one.
yeah, it's very sad. And listen, if I worked with code from both sides of the desk, and I understand that it's a really hard job to do that. And I really, I mean, and it's very hard to find qualified code enforcement people to work. It's kind of a niche job. And they have to have the training and they have to have the license before they can come on. So good luck finding good people.
We're doing our,
I'll help you vet them because I'm an expert.
I take you up on that.
I will be happy to, and I'm sort of joking, but I mean, again,
Oh, I'm serious.
my background, I really have had.
Can't really- I know we can't do that, but.
I know. Pretty much out of her coffee.
Yes.
Do we have a
we haven't had
motion?
Wine yet.
Okay.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second.
Okay, by Commissioner Robinson, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Much. Glad you're back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's like, it was a month. It was a month of Zoom.
Oof.
Yeah. I would watch myself. It was horrible.
Oh, why would you do that?
Well, you have to. It's on Zoom. You see yourself.
Oh.
And we've got to do something about the visual. We are a tiny little being, and I know that we have an
I'm
issue
okay
with
with that.
technology.
Thank you for that reminder. I notice it every time I do the Zoom also, that it's very hard to see anybody.
I like being tiny.
I like being tiny. It's
I'm good with it.
something though that we really need to figure out.
The paper, and I will tell you, having done a Zoom now, good night, what, Penelope? Giselle. Good night, Giselle. She's my favorite staff member. My dogs were so happy when I came home. They're like, all righty, now we have Lake Worth Beach Fleet Facility update on the funding, and I see Mr. Jamie Brown. Jamie Brown's moving to the microphone. Mr. Brown, who takes care of all of us whenever we need it and ask him, and he does it cheerily and efficiently.
And he never sends you to voicemail when you call.
I know he did not. No, he does not. So what's going on?
Good evening.
Good evening.
Commissioner, welcome back.
Thank you.
For the record, Jamie Brown, Public Works Director. So this item, point being, this is from the new fleet facility that we have already started. Mr. Robbins already looking at me laughing. We're already in the
Looking
design
forward to
process.
it.
Already in the design process. We've already been through a couple different iterations, trying to bounce around between the escalating costs and construction and everything else we've been dealing with. And we just gotten to the point where it's just not going to be feasible with what we budgeted back in 2020. When we initially put this proposal together and actually structured the financing. So in getting with finance, we figured out a way utilizing the enterprise fund for solid waste to get this done. And that's what we're bringing before you. Basically looking to match what we're doing with the sales tax, the 1.5, coming from solid waste. And from the last commission meeting, when Stanton was here, we looked at the charts and we put a copy in the backup. We weren't showing any type of need to raise our rates until like 2028. And we have such a great fund balance in that account that this isn't going to hinder that at all.
It's
What
not.
is the, what is the fund balance gonna, sorry, what is the fund balance gonna be if we approve the 1.5 transfer? I can't tell by these little.
Right, it's hard.
I believe it's 3 point something. That I do not have off the top of my head.
Okay.
But we're sitting okay, is what you're telling us.
Correct. That's why we went through Chantec to basically go through, look through the account, make sure that doing this would not hinder our account in any way.
Okay.
It looks like where our capital for that, for the Stantec is around 7-8 million. So the 1.5 would come off of that if I'm reading it right. Does that sound ballpark right, Jamie?
Yeah, it's somewhere in that ballpark. I just didn't want to quote it incorrectly. And it's not on my printout here.
You haven't gone to 3 stories yet.
It's
Are you putting in a pool?
resort style, of course. No, it's we're looking at just a 1-story fleet facility. We looked at a couple different ideas. With initially, it was going to be a part of leisure services on the first floor, the parking division, public works on the second floor, and then obviously the fleet section. That went away, and then we had public works on the first floor, electric utility, and his whole engineering operation on the second floor. That went away because the cost is just, it's way too high.
So where are you at now?
So we've scaled back. We're looking at basically just the actual fleet function itself, and then public works admin.
So no leisure services,
No leisure services,
no parking.
no parking.
And we may regret it in the future,
What's that?
not doing it now.
It's a function of money.
So we're trying to scale and get what we need to do. Obviously, you guys have all been to the existing garage, so.
Jamie, what were the probable project cost estimates, right out of the gate with leisure involved and the hardening? Wasn't it somewhere in the, other end of $8 to $10 million?
Yeah, and then real quick, the other portion we might be able to get into this, depending on what we are, by the time we come around the construction time of this, is the EOC component, the emergency operations center.
Yeah.
So hopefully we can get that done, and it will be a hardened facility. So we would have public services admin, emergency operation function, and the actual city fleet function. That's the goal, based on this budget. And hopefully by the time we get here, project costs will start coming down, steel, everything will come down a little bit more reasonable.
Yes.
And we'll take the pool out and put a hot tub in.
Just a hot tub. One of those.
There's no guarantee for that, so that's why we are.
One step at a time. Motion
And
to
with electric in there, I mean, it was close to $10 million.
Wow.
It was like 9.8.
And this is over on your property.
That's the south end of the existing public works property, which is currently the graveyard developed.
Right.
But with all of the requirements of FERC and NERC and all the different regulatory agencies with electric and all the security you need, it just wasn't feasible. It just added way too much to the project.
And we trust you enough to take your word for it. And Mr. Robinson's got his light on again.
Well, I just, we have a casino that went this direction, how many years ago? And I just don't look forward to a public works building being a casino type project.
In terms of what?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure I'm following the logic. Should we, the electric in the casino?
No,
I think
completion of a project out 20 years or 10 years, when right now we're just coming up to the bare minimum of a project of large investment. And for a little bit more, we could get, I just have a angst about, in 10 years, we should have, could have. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be able to get what we need out of the facility. It's just a matter of if we wanted to add a different city operation. We're going to have leisure, we're going to have electric.
And I'm wondering how soon that's going to be. That's all.
Yeah, the price is way out of whack for us. So there's an additional $4 million for the electric function, which
Wow.
is substantial.
To bring.
And if we don't,
customer
it's
service.
going to be 8 million in 5 years. So.
And then where are they now? They're in the annex.
1900 building.
They're 1900.
Oh, that's right. Okay, yeah. There is one
Our
more.
SysOps operations actually being built out in the RO plant.
Correct, on the second
Yeah,
floor of
that's-
the water plant.
And that's okay.
Well, that's what used to double as our EOC.
Yeah.
But one of the issues that we've encountered is being a coastal community, we, outside of one space in the RO plant that's rated for Cat 5, I think.
They're trying to harden it right now, so not all 4 sides are actually.
Right. So we haven't had a facility for crews to ride out storms that were hardened to a Cat 5 level.
Right.
By doing this, but, and this is twofold. This is a reaction to inflation, and the cost of goods simply have gone up so much due to the pandemic, 30–40%. That is what's driving the conversation at the end of the day. Now, the conversation that Commissioner Robinson's hinting to, and how it relates to the casino is, in essence, what Jamie was explaining, we kind of value engineer ourselves out of, we started with 2 floors with all these different departments, and slowly we value engineer ourselves down to essentially building to a budget.
Yeah.
Instead of building what we need.
Well, when you're looking at it in a grand scheme of things, leisure currently is housed in 17M. We're all aware of what's being housed in the vacant space. What happens in 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Where do they go? If things work out in the vacant space, we find an operator. We got to cross that bridge. These are all known issues that we have to come back. So when we talk about buckets of money like ARPA, when we talk about borrowing money to do capital, this is where these things become real. So right now we're at the intersection, for instance, that to Commissioner Robbins' point, maybe the conversation is, okay, Jamie, we'll do the 1.5, it gets you this. But what does another 1.5 or 2 million do? does
See,
it
that's,
address
we've got to have an ARPA
17,
workshop pretty
does it
soon.
address future staffing needs for the, the vacant space, I call it vacant, it's not vacant, but the, second floor space at the casino building?
Yeah.
But again, it's always been a function of money and funds.
Here,
So,
I'll trade you.
but again, also, Jamie, correct me if I'm wrong, you're pretty far down the road in design for us to stop and pivot and then do another, or is there ability to, because I just opened up a Pandora's box essentially here.
Good job.
I noticed that.
Well.
I just noticed that.
We can blame Commissioner Rupp, no.
Well,
I'd
I'd like to finish with.
One at a time, please, children.
I'd like to finish and then just ask if this design has any future additions to it. Can you design a building of one story that has the potential to put a second story on it?
You can, but you will pay more.
Well, sure, you're gonna pay more for more.
The way that it's currently laid out, the way we're looking at it, we would be able to, in the future, if we wanted to add an additional floor on top of the existing first floor footprint. And the same thing if you wanted to do a third floor, but as Juan said, you're obviously gonna pay more because you're basically retrofitting what you currently have.
And are these things, we very quickly, very soon, we have to have a real discussion about ARPA because that money's gonna start coming in. Is this something that with the unrestricted funds we might look at? Okay. And there's a house and they just talking about adding second and third floors, Commissioner Robinson. Sorry. There's a house, very cleverly done years ago. It was a one-story house and they wanted to make it 2 stories. So what they did is essentially build an extra skeleton they built right around the house, support beams that went up and made it a 2-story without adding to the load of the first story. So there are creative ways to do that if you want to do that a little bit later. But I think part of this is the ARPA conversation as well.
Good.
Okay, anyway,
Motion to approve.
I see the light is kind of on.
I had a question because.
It's a new battery.
I know, I think you used to have this. No, it's not. I think you came in ahead of time and switched.
Running.
I'm telling you, I'll buy you a double battery.
I know. Yeah, I had the same questions about just designing for the future, even if we can't design it all now that Commissioner Robinson was touching on. And so, 1.5 million is still a lot of money to have to transfer over. And I'm curious, what is the likelihood that we'll at least get the emergency operating center out of that? Or are we thinking we're going to transfer this money over and it could possibly be just the garage?
As of right now, the numbers we're looking at, we should be able to get the EOC. So we're kind of in the process right now of getting everything laid out, but we're about to release the existing design to MEP, mechanical engineering, plumbing, and actually start getting the work done, actually doing the tie-ins for all of the exterior and underground utilities. And that's when you really start generating your estimates and your budget.
So you have to do new, so those utilities, are they being designed to expand as well?
Well, those are for electric,
just
that's
putting them
everything that basically has
underground?
to come into the new facility.
Okay.
So they design coming from existing water lines that are currently, yeah.
So once that's there, if we expanded the building, we don't have to touch any of that stuff again?
No, because you're already bringing those
Right,
services to the new
okay.
facility.
Yeah.
So once they're actually piped in the new facility, they're there.
Commissioner Maliga.
2 things. Have we looked at maybe using shipping containers or repurposing something for that building? Number 1. And number 2, this is going to lead me to another conversation.
Oh, here we go.
Our cemeteries do not generate any income, less than $20,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm all in favor in releasing those cemeteries to somebody who's in the cemetery business and selling those and raising money to be able to move the people who are sitting at the cemetery as part of our fleet operations to your building. When I've been looking at the budget and how much money we lose every year on that cemetery, on cemeteries, and the fact that we don't have a salesperson, we're not promoting it, and we don't have money to build a mausoleum, or we can't make any more plots, I'm really in favor of us having the discussion down the road to find funding by selling things like the cemeteries and being able to say, hey, listen, we just found another however money.
Is there a market for cemeteries?
There's a huge market for cemeteries and funeral homes right now because of COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Well, that's why they can build a mausoleum, make them pay for it.
Yeah, the problem we're gonna run into, and what I brought forward from last year, and what you guys will see at some point again soon, not, I guess, in this CIP, but
Really?
in order to do something like you're suggesting, typically you would have, the cemetery, I guess I'd say better condition. As you look at any other cemetery, whether it's Our Lady on Southern or even Boca's Cemetery, I just got the updated rates for them that they're moving up to. You'll see in the fee schedule we're bringing forward in the next week or two. We're changing our rates, our current rates. We're upping some of our stuff. But they're all fenced with decorative, whether it's wrought iron or some kind of decorative.
We can't afford to do that.
There's beautiful landscaping, there's brand new roads, paved roads in there. There's, I mean, there's a different, you can tell the difference.
Yeah,
So
absolutely,
when
absolutely.
you're looking to do something like that, there is a market if you've got an appealing cemetery.
And I wonder how many spots we have open, because it's been filling up.
And they also need the ability beyond just a mausoleum space, but the ability to actually, going into the future, sell many, many plots. And Pinecrest, at least, we are not set up currently to get anything out of that.
So it's just part of the conversation that it is something that we're bleeding from. The previous diocese was quick to close a pool because it wasn't making any money, but nobody ever talked about the cemeteries not making any money and losing hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. And this is one of the ways that I think that we can just look at trying to find ways to find funding for projects like this. That's where I was getting to. Is that we have cars that are sitting over there. We have city trucks that sit on that property with the city cemeteries. And if we could facilitate those to move to your new facility and help fund that through the sales of.
And we'll get you up the cemetery conversation, but there are ways to increase that income.
Yeah, but we're not in the cemetery.
Well, you know, Europe, you only get a plot for like 20 years.
What's that?
In Europe, you only get your plot for about 20 years.
What do they do with you?
They dig.
I don't know.
They
I
know.
They do not.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so we with our two cemeteries, we are in the cemetery business, whether we like it or not, just in perpetuity. And the only problem is, stuff like mausoleum, you have to find ways to continue to bring in actual profit each year. Because after all those plots are gone,
that's it.
That maintenance continues every single year, even if you have zero revenue coming out.
Correct. And that's where we're at right now is we're losing revenue.
I wonder how many plots we have left, like in.
Not many.
I wouldn't think, we've been selling them for, 100 years.
Anyways, I didn't mean to open that box. I was
Well, but
putting
you
that
did,
conversation
didn't you?
out there because I would love to get our staff, like the Commissioner Stokes and Mr. Robinson alert to that. We need to think future and finding funding to do things the right way as part of the future. With that being said, I make a motion to approve.
A second? Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioner, we're gonna get to you, Commissioner McBoy, this time. I'm gonna keep things fair with you guys. We know how you get.
I seconded it.
You boys. And that's all a joke. It's not sexist. I'm gonna get
Wish,
What?
I would defer to the wishes of others should someone else want to second.
Oh, you can, I think Commissioner Robinson's gonna let you have it.
Really?
That's motion by Commissioner Malega, second by, do we have any public comment on this? Is this a public comment thing? No, okay.
We have no public comment, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I just keep forgetting it, so I try to just throw it in. All right,
We got to vote.
I'm about to say all in
Okay,
favor.
I'm just reminding you.
Woman. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, that's unanimous, I believe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. As usual, you are excellent. Now, Madam Clerk, I have to tell you, I'm a little confused because I see a discussion regarding using ARPA funds for ads to promote COVID-related outreach for rental assistance, legal aid, or webinars with doctors and respected members of the community. But I don't see an E in my book, and maybe that's
Why?
That's just maybe.
There was no backup, Madam Mayor. It's just a discussion
Okay,
to see if there would be consensus to do anything about that.
okay. Who brought it up and they can start? That was
I did.
Commissioner Stokes and she can start.
I brought it up. As you spoke, I know that this might be a controversial issue, but I think that I'm going on a limb here thinking that
Go
the
ahead.
majority of us on the
You're among
dais
friends.
believe that the best path forward out of this pandemic is to get more people vaccinated. So we, I did bring this to discussion because I didn't want to send staff doing a bunch of stuff without making sure that all of you.
Respect our send, we really appreciate it.
Perfect.
But
This is the way to do it.
our staff is so amazing. When they saw this as a discussion item, they reached out to me and said, so I did have about an hour conversation with them.
Okay.
But they did reach out to me. So Jess has been doing a great job, really staying connected with the county resources and county programming. And was able to schedule like a virtual town hall for the city of Lake Worth, where Dr. Alonso and her team will be able to do a Q&A. And anybody who is vaccine hesitant. So I'm not trying to get us to really like go crazy hard after the people who are like, I've made up my mind, I don't want the vaccine. But there is a portion in the middle who have questions, who've heard false information. They're getting, that could benefit from attending a webinar like this, where they're able to ask questions. One of our own staff members attended a webinar like this and found it very useful because she was worried about what a vaccine might do to fertility.
Right.
And then after going through the entire webinar, felt very confident and went out and got vaccinated.
And this would be for the public in general?
This would be for the public, yes.
Yeah.
And so we have things like that are being scheduled, like these webinars. We have the rental assistance buses that are coming. We have the vaccine buses that are coming.
Right.
But we're having a harder time reaching or advertising them just on our own Facebook page. So Lauren talked to me, Ben talked to me just about a ballpark figure. If we wanted to have maybe some yard signs printed up that say, vaccine bus this way, that we can place to like help point people to rental assistance bus coming 2 days from now, just little things like.
What was the ballpark?
And to do targeted messaging where they can pinpoint people who like actually are in the city through Facebook, and then the ad will show up on their feed. Hey, webinar coming.
Yeah.
For $3,000 out of 19 million, it wouldn't take their staff time. They'd be able to just coordinate a campaign like this and not have to do all the work themselves and be able to, that like $3,000 would be, is it 3 to 5 would be more than enough for them to cover any kind of digital ads. It doesn't mean that they would use it all. And try to, we also had talks about, do we want to do anything with us or respected members of the community, church leaders, other leaders in the community that can say, I'm vaxxed, just like some kind of campaign to say, look, the people in your community have been vaccinated, because they're part of the conversation that I was listening to with the county was saying that people who are hesitant are more likely to feel comfortable if it's people that they know and respect than like some celebrity or somebody, we could, so that's where that was. So staff said that they could do the like scheduling of things and coordinate it, but they might use, like if we want to get pictures or something, a couple $100 for a professional photographer to come help.
Sean.
Yeah, Sean. Who's the
Amazing
go-to
Sean,
person.
my
If we
God.
if we want to give them a $500 budget, then everything falls on them and it takes a ton of their time. And then, so it was, and you could set the budget for anything you wanted. If you said, I want it to be 1,000, then, they'll tell Google and they'll tell Facebook, 200 here, 200 here, and it'll run as often as they can for that amount. So this is really meant to be a discussion of, are we comfortable as leaders of this community putting our faces on a campaign or having like a little like a mayor's message, or I'm comfortable at science. I think, these are hard times and masks have become controversial and things have become controversial. The school boards had to deal with it and they've had to make tough decisions and do what's best for their students. And they have to, it is a hard thing, but I feel confident in the science and the need to promote vaccinations. So
I'm very grateful I was vaccinated.
yeah. So
does this mean Dr. Alonso will be able to get information from the state on the death rate?
Yeah, that would be nice.
I think we could definitely pull questions from the commission to send to Dr. Alonso ahead of time. I can't speak for her right now, but we can pull questions for her. The webinar, I think, is scheduled in October. We might even be able to have her come here, do like a little Q&A with us if we want to. This is a discussion. Like, this is not me saying, I want us to do this, let's vote. This is like, hey, let's do something. And I'm just starting the conversation going.
And I had a conversation with a pretty intelligent person, leader, that I question sometimes his opinion, and he was questioning science. Just go.
And then they go to hospital because that's.
Right, and we're not gonna get to everybody, but my goal is that we try to reach as many people as we can. And like I said, the hesitant people, the fence, like the ones that don't feel strong, the ones that felt strongly about getting vaccinated have all been vaccinated.
I just
That
have a
feel strongly about
question.
not getting vaccinated aren't gonna do it, but there's still that middle group.
Well,
I have a question, because this says rental assistance, are you narrowing it down to just the COVID vaccination information? Because this is legal aid web, rental assistance and legal
It
aid.
is a discussion, right? So if we, and so our amazing staff was like, what do you want to do? Like, in order to be able to give me numbers on how much it would cost to run this ad that many times to advertise this event or that event and things like that. They need information. I said, well, let's discuss it as a group.
Thank you. It's so.
And once we know, is it just the webinar that we want to advertise, or do we want to, we can just say, this could just be like, hey, Lauren, Ben, go back and get us the numbers for if we have the rental assistant bus every 2 weeks, if we want to run an ad 2 days prior to.
Where would you run an ad?
Through Facebook, through Google, like people searching for certain things, like little banner ads could come up. It will be designed, this is Lake Worth.
In the
Rental,
schools?
there's the
Are
bus.
we gonna
it's coming
use the
here.
schools?
Yeah.
We could definitely try to partner with the schools. So
That's,
the idea was to be promoting, we're not trying to message the importance of getting vaccinated. We're not trying to message or like change people's minds through this. We're just trying to like
Information.
maybe reach more people about, we have somebody from Frills who wants to come and work in Frills, Florida Rural Legal Services.
Oh, okay.
For free. They want to do outreach in our community. So they're just asking, can we have a space at your library every Wednesday for a certain amount of time? So if we have that, if we can, also part of this would maybe be going and trying to get into, printing flyers, going into like some of the supermarkets that aren't Publix and trying to make connections with businesses to help any kind of promotional material.
And I've met with the Guatemalan consul, which should be another resource to do it. Another.
Right.
Handout part.
Yeah.
I see Juan's light on.
Commissioner.
Oh, I see.
First.
I'm so sorry.
I'll wait patiently.
We're so polite tonight. So good to be back.
I didn't want to jump ahead of Commissioner Stokes, and I appreciate the the discussion item, but I just kind of want to up the ante a little bit and really ask from city manager to the commission for consensus to just establish a $10,000 budget that essentially is to fund communication efforts for COVID outreach, rental assistance, legal aid, essentially everything that's on here, and maybe some things that we aren't thinking of. It's a good use of ARPA money. And the consensus is to dip into our available fund balance, or find money in accounts, because we're at the end of the fiscal year. We get into this weird period between September and October, between fiscal years, where we kind of cut off and try to close out the year with P-cards and purchasing orders. But with the understanding that the ARPA money, once we get our first allocation of the two tranches, that the ARPA money would replenish any operating dollars. That way Ben and Lauren can kind of get going, because what we're talking about is purchasing Facebook ads that are targeted. There's a very targeted method to do that, whether it's on their Instagram or both. And probably, without even talking and thinking of it, maybe hiring someone like Darian who does our newsworthy TV show to do very specific targeted, videos and whatnot. Again, these things take time and money to create. We don't have an in-house studio. We got just Ben. So
not to exceed 10,000.
I would move it up. Doesn't mean we're going to spend it all, but it kind of gives them a little bit more of a ceiling, and out of $19 million for the effort and the sense of urgency of what's going on in our community. Because again, as the numbers come out every week, Lake Worth is at the top. Like we were of COVID cases, positivity rates, and by the county enacting the state of emergency, what that did was allow them to give weekly information out of the hospitals.
Well, I contributed to that, and I'm very proud of that.
Right, and just
your part.
I do my part.
So I kind of wanted to, I'm asking for consideration to really move this from discussion to consensus, so we can kind of just take off with this and start.
Commissioner Malega?
So I love this discussion. I support it. I just want us to be very careful that this is how conversations started with the penny sales tax. And before you knew it, all the money was spent. And I know it's a lot more money than what the penny sales tax is. So I just want us to be mindful that we haven't had that ARPA conversation.
Mhm.
And we can't just keep adding little items until we get there, because before we know it, we'll be down the hole and $300,000 will be gone.
Mhm.
So I am in support of it. I love this idea. My concern also is we can't just say Facebook, right? Because
Right,
we have
not
a huge
everybody's-
population.
Right.
It's not even on Facebook. So I would support this only if we used other channels like WPBR, the radio station, the Haitian radio station, to communicate in Creole.
Yeah.
Somebody speaking to the Creole speaking community on the radio, because that's how they get information.
And the
right?
Guatemala Hispanic.
And 103.7, advertises, to the islanders. Finding a way to work with those outlets as well as Facebook, Instagram, whatever, and make sure that we really are doing everything we can to hit every population in our.
Because
in our city.
Facebook is limited.
Facebook is very limited.
Jess has been in contact with the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the Guatemala Alliance. Yeah, so this was just like a blanket. And so I think that's great. And then staff hears that, and I think they're all understanding of that. And like Juan said, if they know that we're going to support them financially, that they can put together a package and a plan and a campaign for us to look at and poke holes at or add to it.
You're right, but I'll also encourage everybody who's sitting here to share this stuff on Facebook. I'm pretty much, I share on every single group, every single page, every single thing the city
And when
puts
you
out.
share, I share your stuff as well.
And it's free, right? Because we all have different followers, different friends, different groups. So please, whatever you see on the city's website, like, this Saturday's event for 9/11.
Right.
I literally sent it to a ton of people in the city through Messenger, and everybody was like, what time, where? I didn't even know about this.
Cool.
So please make sure that if we do this, that we're all on the bandwagon together. And I really don't want to approve any more money of spending of ARPA until we do our budget workshop. There, I said.
I agree with you, and we have $19 million, we have 4 years, we have 19 point something, and I think we have to be comfortable spending that point something.
We also had 16 million in penny sales taxes. No,
I understand that, but we also have, we're not done with this pandemic. We're in a second gigantic, third, fourth, I don't know, fifth wave of this pandemic. So if things are coming up, I want to get through this pandemic. I want to get our community vaccinated. I want us to be safe. I want to move on and then figure out how can we spend that $19 million on other stuff. So I want to be flexible, and maybe we can have a conversation on
we need to have a
not
workshop.
spend more
on
than
ARPA.
X amount of dollars on, a little bit here, a little bit there, until we've had, allocated something else. But I do think we need to be comfortable. I mean, I can't even tell what
10,000 as
10,000 out of
long as it
19 million
includes
is.
schools.
But the schools are
We
gonna
have to enter the schools and give this information to the.
We do. So do you have
Well-
ideas, Commissioner Robinson, for how to partner with the schools?
We walk in the door and make sure that every class gets the same
But
information.
first we get permission from the school board to do that.
Well, I'm going to insist that the school board allow us into our schools. We're talking home rule, $10,000 as long as it includes approaching the schools with whatever staff comes up with.
If I may.
Yes, you may.
Since I kind of took this from discussion to trying to seek consensus.
You
and
did.
These
You
are
have
all good
consensus.
comments, and I do recognize, living through sales tax conversations, all 13 workshops and counting, that we do have to be very good financial stewards of the city's money with this pot of money of 19 million that we've been blessed with. And understanding the cost of ads and the cost of doing communication, marketing efforts and promo, $3,000 wasn't gonna get us far. What I can commit to doing is working with Lauren and Ben and our communications team to put together a plan, bring that forward, have you participate in that communications plan in the details. That way, we're still having an ARPA conversation.
Right.
And we're not just saying, okay, 10,000 tomorrow, 15,000 later.
So you're asking for consensus for staff to put together a
Right.
plan.
I just felt
Consensus.
the need to just kind of up it up, because 3,000, it can be
Yeah.
gone. And then you turn around, you're like, well, what was the desired outcome?
Okay.
Was it measurable?
Dude, let's-
And-
We can start moving this little train along. Do we have consensus to let staff come up with a plan about this COVID?
So $10,000 ball.
Consented.
That will be appropriate to enter the schools as well.
And we'll try
We
to
heard you, Herman.
set up.
If we're
Do
allowed
you
to.
want me to reach out to Erica Whitfield, do you want
Yes.
staff to, do you want our mayor to, how do you?
Well,
I
let's
mean,
see
I'm
what
happy
staff
to-
comes up with and then take
So
it to
staff
the,
can try to reach out to
good.
Erica and find out what access we can have to schools as part of this plan. I think that's great. I mean,
So we have
Knowing they have a
consensus.
budget can get very creative.
Okay, so staff, so we are giving staff consensus on this special project to bring us back a plan to vote on and to, to talk about it and vote on. And
Yeah,
take
and
it.
then we'll bring the financial, I know if Bruce is listening, he's probably, we'll bring back, the appropriate appropriation and do the right budget to make sure that any operating accounts replenished and that commitment to the ARPA money and everything, the paper trail there.
Okay,
So
so you have.
Certainly, I tried to put some sort of electronic light on. I don't know if it does anything, but I very much support this. I have no problem with the outreach to the schools. I agree with Juan. Let's not nickel and dime it. If we're going to do this, let's make sure that we have, put together the plan. If the plan comes in at 11 or 12,000, I don't think we should sweat it. Yes, I do hear Commissioner Malega's concern about let's not spend the $19 million 2 dimes at a time without an overall plan. I agree with that. But remember that the ARPA money is largely related to pandemic. And so I think let's do it. I think there's a time need. We are a hot spot, so let's go for it. And I very much support the multicultural approach to it, multilingual. I like the idea of
Great.
combining medical and respected members, whether it's pastors or other members of the community that have firsthand experience, or whatever way that helps people, the hesitant, the middle target community. Yes.
All right, we have consensus.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
can I would like to potentially challenge all of us to try to, if we could each add 2 new contacts to Jessica's list.
Sure.
So she has a whole list. If I can find 2 new businesses or churches or something, and then we got to grow that list.
Okay. So where are we? I think we just are at city attorney's report and city manager's report. We are.
No, Madam Mayor, I'm sorry. We're on new business H, which was moved from the consent agenda.
I did not.
Ratification.
I did not pull it.
Oh, you didn't?
I did not pull it.
Not during it, no.
Right.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize.
I changed my mind because I'm a flexible and reasonable woman. So we didn't pull it and it's set, the CRA appointment is done. And so I was right this time, madam. So now we have city attorney. Do we have a report from the city attorney?
I don't, but I do want to comment on one thing that Commissioner Robinson brought up, and that is about taking official action on something that's not on the agenda. And he's absolutely correct. Pre-COVID, and it's actually a case that Glenn handled for the city of Riviera Beach, you could, once you're in a public meeting, you can take action on anything, you can take a vote on anything you want, because back in those days, for the meeting to happen, everybody had to be here. And if you weren't at the meeting, then you lose, and the commission could do whatever it wants. We backed away from that because of COVID, because now we have closed City Hall and there's limited access. Some people may not have access to Zoom, and so what we recommended instead is that we add things like these discussion items. So even if you're coming to a consensus, the public's aware of the discussions that's going to be on, and hopefully they can find a way to tune in. So you're absolutely right. Legally, you guys could vote on anything and take whatever action you want to once you're in a publicly convened meeting. We just don't recommend it now, to try to be more transparent and to try to give the public an opportunity to tune in so that they know what's going to be voted on.
Even if it's not on the agenda, if it just comes out of left field.
If it comes out of left here,
So
correct.
that makes me so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It does.
That's not such a bad practice.
We just say right now, let's try to get it on the agenda. The clerk's office is doing a great job.
And this is a perfect example.
Of
what you
additions
just
and
did.
deletions being published as well, so the public can ideally see everything you guys are gonna be discussing,
Right.
even if it's just to get consensus. And
Yeah,
so
I think we need to be really careful about taking action on something that's not on the agenda too, that my sense of, whatever sense of orderliness I have, that just
Right.
goes
It was a
against.
2-second, hey, Melissa, Juan, can
Yeah.
we get this discussion item on the agenda? Boom, it's there.
It's a discussion
And
item.
I'm sorry, there is no backup, but it's like, hey, I just want to be able to.
But it's not a vote.
Ahead of the
Right.
deadline.
And it's not a vote. I think, and I love the idea, and I think is what I was referring to without opening that can of worms again, referring to with
The pool.
the pool, well, not the pool. With other different things. Trust me, darling, we're gonna be talking about the pool, all right? Trust me. It's gonna be very interesting. And I think it's gonna be a good conversation. I mean, I'm getting a lot, because the pool is something I've been talking about. Of, import from the pool and comments on the pool. And I think that we are going through this exercise right now. It really is just a sort of an intellectual exercise about whatever the old pool would be, which I don't think is anyone's dream about how we want that to end up.
Like a nightmare. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no.
You're saying something?
That's all I had. I just wanted
City
to.
manager, how you doing over there?
No, we're doing great, Madam Mayor. And I got three things. Just a reminder to everyone that's listening, this Saturday, 9/11.
Yes.
Leisure Services is putting on a 9/11 event at Bryant Park.
What time?
Starts at 10 o'clock. And we do have a special guest, a
Besides
police
me?
officer that actually was part of
Yeah.
9/11 in New York City, is my understanding. So Lauren and Emrick and staff been working really hard to have our first annual 9/11 event there. So we encourage everyone to attend. And if you can't, just keep those families that were affected and impacted, everyone by 9/11 in your thoughts and prayers. Secondly, in your emails, 2 days ago, Yannick and Bruce issued the FY20 audit. They're available to answer, sit down with you one-on-one, answer any specific questions you may have. For the most part, everything came out very well. And we're glad that that is in our rearview mirror now. I have asked that the audit firm come and do a presentation to the commission at the October 5th meeting, which was an annual kind of common thing to happen. We kind of got away with it a little bit. But I think it's important they come and present the audit officially to you in a presentation format, because it is a very important document of many important documents. So that's coming on the radar. And then lastly, I just want to give the elected body kind of a heads up that I'm going to be working very closely with Laura Dolan, who represents is part of Tercevia and Dolan and Gadu and who else is there now? Laura, as you know, you guys have all talked to Laura before.
Oh, right.
She handles our personnel side of the house. So I am gonna be meeting with her and Lauren Slayton, our HR director, start talking about what can we do as an organization as far as incentivizing vaccinations and having that conversation specific to our organization. You will be seeing lately, you may have already seen some municipalities jump up with different ideas. Delray, everyone's kind of doing their own thing, which is okay. I think the point is related to the last conversation is encouraging people to get vaccinated. And as an organization, we'll sit down with our attorney and our HR director and figure out what type of programs or plan we can institute moving forward. So that'll be coming to you. I'm sure that'll take some time to kind of work through those details. And if you weren't aware, President Biden did addresses the nation specifically about COVID. So I'm sure there's going to be some reactionary stuff that comes out in the coming weeks into some of the comments that were shared by the president, some of their, I think it was a 6-point strategy kind of conversation. So I'll be bringing that forward.
Yeah. Anything else?
That's it, Madam Mayor. Welcome back. It's good to have you
It's
back.
really good to be back. It's the most bizarre 3 weeks of my life. And I just want to thank, I know that we have staff shortages and COVID has hit us very hard. And I just want to thank not just the department heads, but, please carry it to your workers that we totally appreciate all the things that you do for us. And we love our city.
Yeah.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
I don't make a motion.
All motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Did I forget something, Clerk?
Second.
All right. Only spending to you.